Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the ACPS News Showcase, a little live bit that we're doing right before the school board meeting. Tonight, we're going to be reviewing what I've been able to do this year, along with some events as we head into graduation season for this month, as all the seniors get ready to move on to the next portion of their lives. If you have any questions or comments during this portion, please feel free to put them in chat. We'll be reading those and answering the questions at the end. My name is Peter Garrison. I'm one of the student school board representatives this year, and I'll also be in the meeting later this evening. First off, I want to talk about robotics this year. You might have heard a little bit about it before. Manelson Middle School has a robotics team that wrapped up its year with a fantastic rocket launch just a few weeks ago. It was a really great event. Students each got to build their own rocket and then launch it at Manelson. Secondly, we have all the events coming up this month. So far, we've already had the Golden Tassel Ceremony, which is public on YouTube. The Golden A Ceremony, where seniors who performed well enough in their classes were able to recognize a profound educator of their choice. That was a really special ceremony, but unfortunately it's not available for public viewing. We have the Senior Awards Ceremony on Monday for anyone who is a family member or friend of a senior to attend. And we have graduation next Friday on May 27th. And that'll be at 7 p.m. and will be at Liberty in the Vine Center, I believe. And that one will be publicly live streamed as well for anyone who's unable to attend. And this year there are no COVID restrictions, so if you are concerned as a friend or family member, you will be able to attend without having to register for a ticket or limited seating. Also, spring is here, and many schools have had the opportunity to do a trout release and water analysis field trip down at the James River. Each school has had the opportunity to be involved with this, or will soon, and now we're going to head into a real quick video two quick videos from Elon Elementary School and Madison Heights Elementary School that highlight some of the activities that our elementary schoolers got up to.
So if we have less than 11 bugs, what is that, 11 points, what does that mean? It's poor. If we have 11 to 15 points, it's fair. If we have 15 to 21 points, and if we have more than 21 points, it's excellent. And we had 123. So what does that mean?
The water is very good.
The water is very clean, very good.
Alright, that was our Elon Elementary School video. And if you have any questions or comments about that or anything else that we've discussed so far this evening, feel free to put it in chat, and I'll be sure to read those and respond to any that need it after this next video. This next video will be Madison Heights Elementary School's their same trip with Dr. Wells, going down there looking at the water quality and everything like that.
What kind of, is the water good, bad, not too good up here? What is it?
It's good. It's excellent.
It's excellent. Good. It's cold. But you
So that was a great opportunity for our elementary school students to explore nature and the outdoors with a pretty cool hands-on activity. I actually had the privilege of editing those videos in my internship here with Mr. Cargill. If you have any comments or recommendations on those videos, I would love to see them so I can make my videos better in the future. So that was really cool, very immersive, like I said. One quick reminder, all of our schools are currently doing SOL testing for the next few weeks through June 8th. Parents, make sure your child is well rested, well nourished, and everything as they head into their SOL tests, because I know I've done a lot of them. They're hard and stressful at the very least. With that, I'm not seeing any chat messages right now, but I hope you guys have a great night. I'll see you guys in the school board meeting in just a few minutes. We have one more video for you guys from Amherst Middle School highlighting that same trout release field trip.
Everybody, I want it that way. I like that.
Couple of these pennies right here. This little guy that's upside down looks like a leaf. It's actually a water penny.
Bottom or top?
Both.
Oh. Everybody, I want it that way.
just like to make two quick statements. One is for anyone that has not been reading the newspaper or been listening to press releases, just want to make sure that the public knows that our board is pleased to announce that we have selected Dr. William Wells as our next superintendent of Amherst County Schools, pending just finalization of some contractual details. And we're looking forward to formally holding a reception and a signing ceremony in June. We're tentatively looking at the middle of June, about June 16th, but we will announce that date. So make sure we all mark that on our calendar so that we can be here and celebrate together as we turn a new leaf. We also will be recognizing Dr. Arnold and his 4 years with us and expressing our appreciation to him at our next board meeting in June, on June 9th. We will hold a retirement celebration. I'm sure you will have very, very many celebrations for your retirement across the division, but this would be our time as a board that we can say thank you and to recognize you. And so those of you that are in the community that would like to come to that meeting on June 9th and share in our moment that we can have some reception with Dr. Arnold, we would welcome you. So today is not about retirements or welcoming new members or turning that leaf just yet, but I just wanted to make sure that information was out there for the public. So now, board, I need an approval of tonight's agenda.
Madam Chair, I'd like to amend the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Terry?
So I'd like to amend the agenda to add a closed session for the discussion of personnel matters and administrative organizational details.
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Greiser. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We have a closed session. Thank you. Now, I think that we need to approve the actual agenda.
Move for approval of the agenda with the amendment.
All right, we have an approval of the agenda with the amendment.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. We have an agenda. All right, so the first thing, we have a presentation of respect for Mrs. Gloria Walker.
So this is a resolution of respect for Ms. Gloria Walker. Joining me tonight are her husband, Mike, son Chad, and daughter Christy. And so I'm going to read this resolution. And we are today comforted in the knowledge that Ms. Gloria Walker lived a full life in service of others for the sake of not only her family, but for the students and community of Amherst County that she served throughout her service as an Amherst County School Board member. Whereas Ms. Gloria Walker served as Central Elementary PTO co-president from 1998 to 2000, where they fundraised for playground equipment, supplies for teachers, and organized school activities. Whereas Ms. Gloria Walker was appointed by the Amherst County Board of Supervisors on January 7th, 1999 to serve until May 30th, 2012 as an at-large member of the Amherst County School Board. Whereas while serving on the school board, Amherst County Public Schools completed the construction of our elementary gymnasiums, where she exuded excellence during her tenure on the Amherst County School Board through her advocacy and training with the Virginia School Board Association. Therefore, be it resolved that the Amherst County Board recognizes the significant contributions of Ms. Gloria Walker to the Amherst County community as a representative and advocate for students. Therefore, be it resolved on this 12th day in May in the year 2022 that we embrace her family and this community in their bereavement and remembrance of Ms. Gloria Walker, School Board Member Emeritus.
Thank you all so much for this, because I know she'd be very proud of it. Thank you so much.
before we move on, I just want to say a personal thank you for Mrs. Walker's contributions to our school division in many aspects, and I know that her family is very proud of her. Out of all of us, I think Mrs. Ligon is the only one that actually has working knowledge, so I would like to give Ms. Ligon an opportunity to speak to that, if she would.
Okay, I was hoping they wouldn't leave before I said this, but I just wanted to say, yes, we had a wonderful time working with Gloria on the school board, and she's very passionate about all the things for kids. She was especially passionate about bus drivers and their salaries because she had been a previous bus driver. She's very passionate about working at Central Elementary. So we had a wonderful time together. We traveled to all the meetings. We laughed, and it was just a wonderful experience. And I got to know her family during that time as she got to know mine. So she will be sadly missed by all of us. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Earl?
Okay, so, Madam Chair, School Board, I have quite a few recognitions tonight. A lot of students, a lot of staff that have done some excellent and wonderful things. Before I start on the agenda, there is one group, the Central Elementary School archery team. We were going to bring them here tonight because they won the state championship in archery. However, they're on the way to Louisville right now to compete in the nationals. So we'll bring them back in June, hopefully with a couple of things to celebrate for our archery team there at Central. I'd like to, at this time, recognize Amherst County High School welders, Mr. Shannon Presnell and Craig Maddox, if you'll come and present.
Okay, Madam Chair, members of the board, on April the 29th, 7 local high schools fielded 25 participants for the welding wars held at CVCC on their campus. The yearly competition showcases students in their chosen field of welding to local businesses, giving them the opportunity to demonstrate welding skills and personal presentation skills. 12 local companies and the Pipe Fitters Local 10 Union that employ welders were present to interview contestants, take applications, and make appointments for interviews for possible employment. So tonight we want to recognize our students that placed in the competition. So it's broken down. High school is 2 competitions, 2 levels, level 1, level 2. They have a college level competition and a professional level competition. So our students competed in level 1 and level 2. So in level 1, Jonah Cunningham, first place. In welding level 2 competition, Chase Massey, second place. And in level welding 2, Landon Coffey, first place. Now Mr. Presnell is going to recognize one of our welding instructor, Mr. Larry Johnston. Oh, take a picture. Go ahead. Take a picture.
Do you want to stand up?
We'd also like to recognize the instructor, Mr. Larry Johnston. We talk a lot in education about impact and having our students be life ready. And the embodiment of that is Mr. Larry Johnston's class. I've had the pleasure of working with Larry for the past 10 years that I've been in Amherst County, right across from him. And having students be life ready is his goal, and he accomplishes it very, very, very well. He embodies the 5 C's that we talk about all the time. The impact that Mr. Johnston has had on his students is very evident. As Mr. Maddox just said, you know, there's also a professional competition too. And I got to go down to the welding wars with Mr. Johnston and the students first time I've got to go. And the respect that Amherst had walking through the door was mind-blowing. in my opinion. And as humble as Mr. Johnston is, he doesn't want any accolades for that at all. But if you want to see the impact, the person that won the professional competition was also one of Larry's students about 15 years ago. So we took first place in level 1 high school, level 2 high school, and in the professional competition. That says a lot about his skill that he imparts on his students. And just to end this, since where I'm housed at right now, they're doing some read aloud SOL testing, so I vacated that area so I wouldn't bother them, and Mr. Johnson's been gracious enough to say, come on over here if you want to. So I did. I taught woodshop for a long time, and I like the noise. So being over there and just watching the relationships that he builds with his students, the real world experience and the skills they leave with, not just technical skills, but the essential skills that they leave with, is unbelievable. If anybody wants to see perfection in CTE, you can go to Mr. Johnson's class and you'll see it. Thank you.
I'll say they started the welding wars about 6 years ago, and I went as a representative from Campbell County, and Amherst was winning back then too. So I think every year Amherst walks home with the hardware. The next group I'd like to recognize are our school board representatives. So Mr. Garrison, would you come join me? Right here. So unfortunately, Ms. Cabell, Sienna Cabell, could not make it, but I would like to say a few words about Ms. Cabell. She is going to go to Hampton University next year and major in pre-law, and I think Dr. Brown could probably back me up when I say this. I think she's made quite the impact at that school because she has a really infectious positivity about her. Y'all could see that each meeting. If you came to the Golden A's, you could see that there. So I know that she's going to make an impact wherever she goes, and we wish her the best of luck in Hampton. Next is Mr. Peter Garrison, and you guys know Peter has a lot of various interests. He's done a lot with robotics. He's even served as coach at a middle school team. You know, that's pretty amazing stuff for a high school student to kind of give back that way. You may or may not know that he is very enthusiastic about space. Peter, how many times have you gone to space camp? 3 times. He's gone to Huntsville, Alabama to space camp 3 summers. And because of that experience, he's going to go to Alabama Huntsville for aerospace engineering. And you say, what's Alabama Huntsville? Alabama Huntsville is called Rocket City. And it's called Rocket City. They have NASA located there. They have SpaceX located there. They have Aerodyne located there. And so Peter's going to be an aerospace engineer, and we can think of no better place for you to do that. And so you said you wanted to fly in one of those as well. So hopefully we can see Peter's going to be the one that takes us to the other planets that we're going to live on shortly. So, Peter, thank you for your representation. You have spoken very articulately about education and how education should be engaging. And so, Peter, thank you so much, and we appreciate everything that you've done for us. Next up is the Teacher and Support Staff of the Year, and we had winners in both categories, and they were recognized April 20th for their contributions in fulfilling the county's mission and vision. I'm going to announce them here in a second and ask them to come up, but first I would like to read out the finalists that were recognized at their schools already. And so for the Support Staff of the Year finalists, Rhonda Sprouse at Amherst County High School as an instructional assistant, Ms. Terry Campbell, Amherst Middle School, School Secretary. Morgan Ware, Manellison Middle School, Instructional Assistant. Sabrina Carter, Amelon Elementary School, School Health Assistant. Joy Foster, Elon Elementary School Secretary, and Nancy Jones, Temperance Elementary School, Instructional Assistant. So I'd like to give them a round of applause and congratulate them for their efforts. And the Teacher of the Year finalists, we had 5 finalists, aside from the person that won. Ms. Sarah Coleman, Amherst Middle School, she's a math teacher. Ms. Dorothy Brooks, Amelon Elementary, Library Media Specialist. Teresa Taylor at Amherst Elementary. Mary Merritt, Elon Elementary, she's an elementary teacher. And Carrie Fleming at Temperance Elementary School. So congratulations to those folks as well. Okay, so the Teacher of the Year for Amherst County Public Schools is Ms. Cammie McBride at Manellison Middle School. If you will join me, Ms. McBride. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about Ms. McBride. She's been an educator in the division for 18 years. She's taught language arts and English at Manellison Middle School. She served as a teacher at the Amherst Remote Academy during the 2020 school year. She is currently the chair of the English department at Manellison Middle School. This is a quote: Ms. McBride goes above and beyond to support early career teachers. Not only does she have an immediate impact on her students, but she also has a huge impact on every student at Manellison Middle School due to her leadership amongst the Manellison Middle School faculty. That is from Mr. Seeger Jordan, Dean of Students at Manellison Middle School. Ms. McBride is a fantastic teacher, and we are so thankful to have you, and congratulations. She will be forwarded along, Mr. Gallagher, for recognition as a state, so we want to wish her luck in that, but we want to say thank you for the work you do here in Amherst County. Okay, the 2022 Support Staff of the Year is Ms. Brittany McNerney, and she works in HR here at the School Administration Office. So if you would come forward. Ms. Brittany McNerney has served in the role of Human Resource Assistant in the School Administrative Office for the past 11 years. She is recognized for her enthusiasm and desire to help those she works with. She looks for creative solutions to challenges, supporting efforts that ultimately impact student outcomes, helping the division prepare life-ready students. Ms. McNerney is knowledgeable, creative, organized, and a dedicated team player. She demonstrates a spirit of positivity that is uplifting to those around her, and that is attributed to Mr. Jim Gallagher, Chief Human Resources Officer. Ms. McNerney, thank you so much. Thank you for allowing your children to come into our building. They are wonderful. They bring sunshine into our days as well as you do. And so she is the ultimate team player. If there's ever a problem, she's the first to say, I'll jump in and help. So we'd like to thank you for what you do here for everyone in Amherst County. Thank you.
Brittany.
Okay, let's see if I got my stuff. Okay, at this time, I would like to recognize a special group of people that have been employed in Amherst County for 25 years. That is quite a long time. That is quite a dedication and loyalty to a school system, and we would like to recognize those folks. So as I call your name, if you're here, if you come up, I'd like to recognize you with a certificate. Miss Becky Johnson, Amherst Elementary School, teacher. Michelle Abbott, Amherst and Central Elementary School, music teacher. Deanna Ake, Central Elementary School, special education teacher. Lana Jackson, Elan Elementary School, health and physical education teacher. And Sharon Thomas, School Administration Office accounting clerk. And I don't think she's here. Would like to take pictures? That concludes the recognitions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Arnold. And I just want to say thank you to all the teachers that have served us for 25 years. I know that's a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, and thank you very much. And just want to say congratulations to all of those at the school and at the division level that have been recognized for being teachers and support staff of the year. So I know that's a nice process, and just want to let you know how much we appreciate everything that you do. We are getting ready to go into our public comment time. We have 2 that are signed up at this point, so just if you have others that wish to say something, we'll certainly give you that opportunity. When you come up, just make sure that you state your name and your address for us, please. The first one on the list is Jeff Porter.
Jeff Porter, 478 Woody's Lake Road, Madison Heights. It's a privilege to be able to be here and to speak to you. What we've witnessed this evening is a commitment which this school district has made to have a strong teacher base, student base, and support staff. And that is so important for you, and glad that you take the time, make the time for that to happen. My concern is twofold tonight. One is of a lighter nature. The other one is more serious. Many of you, hopefully each of you, have received an email concerning Constitution Day. This was specifically designated by a federal law in 2004, designating September 7th as a day for schools that receive public funds to be able to have a special focus on our Constitution. And it seems to me that in the light of all that's going on in our country, that would be a good thing. We want to have citizens who know about our Constitution, but not just know about it, know what's in it. And so I would encourage you to designate September 17th. This year it falls on a Saturday. So I would ask that you would either have the 16th, which is a Friday, or Monday the 19th as a time where in-class instruction would happen. So my second issue is, as I said, a more serious nature. There have been a recognition by CDC and from other people who are doing research that myocarditis is a real issue for young people between the ages of 12 and 18. And there are already a couple of school districts who have implemented that any student athlete who is going out for sports take a physical examination, which includes an EKG. And I would encourage the administration and the school board to look seriously at that. There have been some really the nature of the reports that are coming out should be enough to compel you to look at this seriously, and I would urge you to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Porter.
you.
The next speaker we have is Karen Duff. Hi.
I'm a parent, Karen Duff. My address is 220 Brightwells Mill Road, Madison Heights. My concern is, more of anything, is what is going on in the 8th grade that you've got coming up into the high school here in Amherst. I have an 8th grade student who's at Mount Ellison Middle. That class has been a problem since they were very young. There's a lot of drama in that class. When he was in the 5th grade at Madison Heights Elementary, he had to wear noise-blocking headphones to be able to focus and concentrate in his classes. It was major discipline problems. Then we went into the 6th grade. Unfortunately, halfway through the year, we hit a pandemic. And therefore, we went to the Chromebooks and being taught, through Google Classroom. I have an issue. My son is graduating from the 8th grade, and he cannot spell, he cannot do punctuation, he cannot write, he cannot write in cursive, he can't even read in cursive. It's not taught. There's no study habits being taught to these kids. Teachers are teaching mostly to an SOL, where they are creating dump sheets so that these kids can learn to pass these SOLs. My son is not a good test taker. And when academics and things are based on an SOL, it's really hard for him. There's no accelerated reading program. They're basically coming out of the 8th grade academically behind. And I just spent the weekend at UVA. My son is in the mentorship program with the Monacan Indian Nation. He is going to have a lot of advantages given to him through that. But we've got to get him to that point. And I just don't feel that moving on with this 9th grade this class into the 9th grade is necessarily going to be an option for us. And I'll give an example. So his language arts grade. First quarter he had an A. Second quarter he had an A. His teacher left. She got married and relocated. Brought in a new teacher. There is no control in that classroom. He went from an A to an F. And do you know, no one contacted me the entire time. Now, I could see it in parent portal. And I did go to my son and say, this is a problem for me. And he's academically not able to make himself be able to push himself through. He can't physically do that mentally at 14 years old. He struggled so greatly last year during 7th grade. And if it hadn't been for Mr. B, who was in here earlier with the language arts group, he would have never made it through. And he's actually back in Mr. B's class now. Because when I called the guidance counselor at the school, I said, he has got, this can't happen. And she said, oh, I wasn't aware, let me go back and check some grades and things like that.
Mrs.
Well, I had already reached out to Mr. B.
Mrs. Stepp, that's the end of the comment time, but I would like to just encourage you to make sure that you touch base with Dr. Arnold. You have her information, but I think that would be a good place to start.
Okay,
Okay,
all right, thank you.
thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to have an opportunity to speak? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment. Okay, board, the next thing on the agenda is consideration of approval of proposed revisions to the policy.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, members of the board, 5.01 was consider proposed revisions, and these were to the Public Schools Policy Manual. We gave these to you as a first read last month. Tonight's a second read. And again, it's your purview whether to approve, but the policies are there for approval.
Okay.
Madam Chairwoman?
Mrs. Justice?
Yes, ma'am. I move that we approve, policies KGA, EEAC, CFBCC, and GBI, and that we move to a work session policies BBA, IGDA, IGBB, BDDF, BCB, BDB, BFEB, BB, and then I think that's in policy BB, the rest of them, pretty much, for discussion regarding, so that we can understand better the changes and the implications of what is being made per each policy. There's a lot of changes that may seem simple. Okay, sorry, I made a motion. I move to approve.
Can you
Yes,
go
sir.
slower?
Yes.
So we can repeat
I'm so
that,
sorry. Yes.
and maybe, since there are fewer that you want to vote on, say those, okay?
Sure.
And
Madam Chairwoman, I move to approve policies KGA, EEAC, CF, BCC, and GBI, and move the rest of the policies to a work session.
thank you.
Okay, so your motion is that you want to take, I think there was 5 policies that you felt like you wanted to separate from the others?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then you want to move those others to a work session?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
Second.
I have a second to that. Is there any discussion?
When would the work session be, Madam Chair?
Well, I guess that we could, would your pleasure be to determine a date before we make them, might make an
No, I'm
amendment
just
to a
saying
date?
that
Well, the next
summertime-
time that we normally would have that would be May 26th, which is right before graduation, and there are a lot of things
That's
that
why-
are going to be going on at that time in our schools that all of us are a part of. It might need to be after, like in June. I want you just be aware that if it's two reads that you would have to do, especially if you've changed any of them, you'll just have to have that work done by August, so you can act on them prior to school. Now, if you don't approve them, then they stay as is. And so just for that knowledge, it doesn't have to rush if you don't want it to.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
is there any urgency to the ones that have been stripped out?
And while they're checking, I think what I'm hearing Dr. Arnold say is that we would probably need to consider a work session in June with approval in July if we were to have it done before August, or a work session prior to our June
Yeah, I think
9th
you could
meeting.
approve it in August and be in good
You
place.
could, okay.
Mhm.
So we could do it in June as a work session and then approve in August as a second read. So there is some option there. I know we have a board meeting on the 9th of June. We're looking at a potential signing ceremony the following Thursday on the 16th, and then the 23rd would be our normal second session.
Like a cardio.
That might work. So I think, based on just looking at the calendar, Ms. Liggett, it looks like maybe the 23rd would be a good option of June.
Mr. Terry, the only one that we feel like needs to be, from our standpoint, that would be more urgent is JJ.
JJAF, the one for the
JJAF.
sudden student athlete's cardiac arrest, that we probably need to have some conversation on.
Because physicals will be
Yeah, we'll start.
in July. They turn over July 1.
Okay.
And I've
But
checked
everything
with-
else is okay.
I've checked with the VHSL. There's nothing new in the VHSL physical form right now. It's just other than a screen or question, do you have any cardiac issues? But the VHSL is not requiring a EKG or anything like that at this time. But again, I know that was been some discussion on that, but we do, under the policy, I think it would be imperative for us to kind of discuss that.
Okay. All right, so board, we have a motion on the floor that's been seconded. We can, vote on that, or you can make an amendment. How would the board like to proceed?
I move to amend my original motion to add policy JJ,
AF.
AF, which is the athletic policy, to amend that policy to include an EKG for the myocarditis screening.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to, if I may, rather than talk about the details in that policy, I think it would be better if we could say that JJAF would be moved into tonight's discussion. So we would now have 6. And then the other ones be pulled into the work session. And then we can talk about the details when that time comes. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right, so could you maybe restate your
I
your
move
amendment?
to amend my motion to separate out policy JJAF to be included in tonight's discussion and vote.
Okay. All right, I need a second on the amendment.
Second.
All right, I have a second by Mr. Terry. So all in favor for the amendment?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we need to vote on the original. So the original is pretty much what we've already just done, but let me restate it, that we would be looking at tonight KGA, EEAC, CF, BCC, GBI, and JJAF. And then we would take the rest of them and move them to a work session. We can determine that date as we move forward. Okay, so that's the motion on the floor, I believe. Is that correct? All right. Is the discussion, any discussion, or are we ready to vote?
Do we get a second?
There was a second.
We have a second, okay. Okay.
Any more discussion before we vote? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so motion carries. So we have 6 that we'll discuss tonight. The rest will move to a work session. I don't know that we need to vote on it, but would we like to make that June 23rd? Is that doable?
How long's it here?
Yeah, Dr. Wells.
Okay, do you have another date that might work?
We
So
could
there's
do it.
30th?
We could do it either, the 30th I'm here. I'm also here obviously the 16th, I'll be here.
We hope.
Sit around.
And then there's the 2nd.
Yes.
Second of what?
June.
June.
June?
June 2nd.
Of course, we can always do a date that's not a Thursday.
Well, it's a lot of these, Madam Chair, it's a lot of events going on in schools that I attend, and I don't have them in front of me right now, but I don't know about that first week in June until we all look at that. I mean,
Okay.
it's just a lot going on with schools, that's why I asked when were we gonna do this, because it's a busy season for me.
Certainly.
With my,
Can
I'm trying to
we-
get to my grandchildren's activities at
Can we
elementary school.
send out a document that y'all can put in check marks, and we'll get the one that has all 7?
Mhm.
of
I
you
think
on
that's
there?
good. And I will say this, I do appreciate, I know work sessions are an extra thing, but whenever we have policy, you know, it's a lot. And I know that it's not just looking at the change, but it's understanding why the change. So just my sentiment is I would like a work session every time we have policy, to be honest. So that's another conversation for another day. So
Is
thank
that
you.
a motion, Madam
No,
Chair?
it's not a motion. Not a motion. So, another conversation for another day. So now we want to look at our policies KGA, EEAC, CF, BCC, and GBI, and JJAF. Board, what is your pleasure? Do you want to vote on all of these together, or do you want to separate any of those?
Madam Chair, I move that we separate out JJAF and approve the others.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's look at approving the KGA, EEAC, CF, BCC, and GBI. All right, I need a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we pass all of the above-named policy changes.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have 5 policies that have been approved. Okay, now we're going to look at policy JJAF. I don't know if there's a possibility of getting that one up for us all, but that might be helpful. And I'm assuming that someone needs to make a motion to pass it, or let's have a conversation first before we make the motion, perhaps.
Madam Chairwoman, I move to discuss policy JJAF.
Okay, sounds good. So, would you like to share with us why you wanted us to talk about this one?
The policy looks good to me. I would just like to maybe amend it to include the EKG to help just rule out any possible myocarditis complications. It's a new phenomenon, so to speak, as far as occurrence, and I think it would be a simple thing to do, but it would help protect our kids.
Okay. Any discussions for anyone else?
Madam Chair,
First.
I have a couple concerns. I'm all for checking, my kids, older kids, all nationally ranked athletes. But my concern is for our parents that maybe don't have insurance coverage, having to pay for that. I would be open to make that on there, but make it optional if the parent has the means to do so. For all means, go do it. But for our parents that are struggling to put their kids in sports, I would like to have that be an option. And also, not to correct you or anything, but this has been going on for years. I remember when my older kids, my oldest is 30, this was an issue back then also.
The myocardia. Okay.
I
Mr. Greiser?
I would agree with Ms. Berg as far as, you don't know what the family situation is as far as health insurance and an EKG, especially with healthcare costs nowadays, and they're telling what they could be slapped with that bill when all they're doing is trying to get their child engaged in something extracurricular. So I would be, option is fine, but I wouldn't want to make it mandatory at this point.
Can we use the word recommended?
Yeah, recommended's good.
But it's optional. Any other thoughts or comments?
Well, Madam Chair, what was the Virginia High School League's recommendation?
So this is not through the VHL, this is through VSBA, through their JJF policy, but VHSL has not updated their physical forms. There are some conversation on it. But what this policy does do, it just, makes them be aware, and if they have any issues that are cardiac related, they're required to go see a medical professional and be cleared by a medical professional before they can return to play as well. It's already in the policy. Again, the concern, I think some of you've already addressed, is the fact that the cost associated with requiring every student athlete to get this, when many of our student athletes are lower socioeconomic status, might be a deterrent to them participating in athletics. Therefore, I think as a requirement at this point, it'd be difficult. I think it'd be a hardship on some of those families to require. Again, if y'all want to add a line saying we would recommend, but I think requiring it at this point in time without a funding source would be a hardship to our families.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have thoughts?
I think the, voluntary thing, the option for the family is a good way to go with that. So.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Rossi.
has anybody looked at the cost of an EKG? What would it actually cost? Does anybody have an idea?
Being in the medical profession for a number of years, right off the top of my head, I'm guessing you're probably looking at a couple $100 easily. And like Ms. Berg said, myocarditis is not something new. It's been an issue for decades. So I mean, I'm not against like I said, have them checked, but it's not a new phenomenon at all.
Okay.
So this policy as written would require someone to be checked if they have heart conditions.
So it's in the second paragraph, it states a student athlete who is experiencing symptoms that may lead to sudden cardiac arrest must be immediately removed from play. A student athlete who is removed from play shall not return to play until he is evaluated by and receives written clearance to return to physical activity by an appropriate licensed healthcare provider as determined by the Virginia Board of Education.
Okay. All right, board members, what's your pleasure?
Madam Chair, I just have a quick question. Who's to say if the kid's having symptoms? What symptoms would that kid have to even be flagged to be pulled?
We have certified athletic trainers.
Yeah, but that's sports.
Ms. Burke.
We have certified athletic trainers at our practices and our games, and they will be the first your coach would be looking for anything out of the ordinary if a kid is articulating he's having issues, but then also the trainer will be screening students as well. And I think it's something we need to train our students on to look for us in this. I think it's something we could also have in place that with the parents, because the parents have to be made aware of this prior to participating in sports. So what are the look fors related to this? And we have to actually develop the regulations that go with this. This is the policy, but we're still required to update this biannually. So I think that's something we would put in place that states you would have to, these are the procedures you'd have to go through to make sure people are aware of the look fors for that. And that's something we would write up in our regulation as far as that. But our athletic trainer they are certified to look for these things, and then when there are issues, we typically call EMS pretty quick when somebody's having a problem.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Rossi.
under the risks, will we list the causes or what parents should look for to make their decision whether or not they're going to invest in the EKG or not before the physical? Are there like a list of symptoms or something we should say if your child has these symptoms or something along those lines where we can get a medical opinion and say, if you've received a vaccine or some sort of medical history that we would strongly suggest that you get checked without going into their history on the form itself, but where the parents could make that decision?
So again, I think it comes down to the procedures we write, and that's something we need to write by talking with our medical staff and trainers and so forth. So when we write the procedures, we'll consult medical professionals as to what those risk factors are and have it in our procedures. So adopting the policy puts in place the fact that we have to develop the procedures. Without the policy, we don't have to develop the procedures. So we need the policy in place, so therefore I can then get with the medical teams to write the procedures, and then I would update you what the procedures are once they're written.
Thank you.
Mr. Greiser?
I was going to say something about the policy has to be in place before we talk about everything else would.
Good. Okay, if there's no other discussion, how would the board like to proceed?
Madam Chair, could we move forward with a vote?
Yes, you just need to make the motion.
Oh, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Certainly.
That we proceed with the vote.
On just the policy the way it is?
On the policy, but with her motion to put in, or what we discussed about putting it in there being optional.
Can I make a recommendation?
Yes,
Could I
you
put that
can.
in the procedures? Could I, under the procedural part, could I say the Amherst County School Board just, do these procedures or something along those lines, or we recommend students receive this, that type of thing in the procedural aspect of it, so it's really not in the policy, because the policy just states I need to write the procedures, but that could be in the procedural aspects of it versus in the policy aspects of it.
Okay. I was going to say, just help me, we've done a lot of discussion. What is the motion that's on the floor? And have we? I didn't think there was, but the way y'all were talking, it made me question myself. So there's no motion on the floor.
There's not a second yet, so.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so you can let that die right there and then start a new one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I believe right now we're still in discussion. When I'm reading the policy here, it says, in order to participate in any extracurricular physical activity, each student athlete and the student athlete's parent or guardian must review on an annual basis information provided by the school division on symptoms that may lead to sudden cardiac arrest. So I would propose that maybe we just did discussion. So that maybe what we do is just after the part where it says that may lead to sudden cardiac arrest, comma, including possible relationships of vaccine to myocarditis being increased. Meaning, for instance, when we get our vaccinations, we're given a list of all the things that could happen. Now, most of us have never seen any of them, but it's still there for full disclosure. So I would just propose that maybe we just put that we note that there's a mention of myocarditis, because there are parents that are concerned and there are sources that do suggest that there is an elevated risk of it among youth.
Well,
So-
I think my thought is that our policy is what we want to have happen. The information that you're talking about can occur in a regulation or information that's put out. I mean, the
Or-
policy is pretty much what we're
Or
going to
talk with your
follow.
healthcare provider.
Yes.
I mean, we could add a line in the procedural aspect of it which states certain research suggests that vaccines da-da-da and may lead to myocardial infarction. If you receive that, you might want to consult with your healthcare provider regarding further tests or further discussion. But that's something you could put into the procedural aspect of it, but the policy itself, I don't think it needs, I wouldn't say in a policy, that's part of what we should put in the procedures as similar to a regulation.
And I think that would accomplish what you're saying. And I would agree with him based on just a little bit of knowledge of policy.
And I can present, once the procedures are written, they'll be presented to you so you can see them. So it's not like you won't have any input or knowledge of what's in the procedures.
So, Madam Chairman, it would seem to me that at this point, it doesn't appear that we need to make any changes to the policy as it's here, that the changes that we may being suggested is going to be covered in procedure. So, Madam Chairwoman, I move to close discussion.
Okay, is there a second to close discussion?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, discussion is closed. I need a motion on the floor.
Madam Chairman, I move we approve policy JJAF.
Okay, I have a second.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Burke. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we are down to our consent agenda. I need a motion.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Greiser.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, thank you. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Terry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Update on administrative services.
Yes, ma'am. I had to flip a couple of pages. All right. Madam Chair, members of the board, I will start tonight with administrative services on a construction update. So the construction committee is going to meet on May 17th, and we'll have a conversation then regarding the recommendations from the architect. We plan on bringing those recommendations to you on June 9th at the June 9th meeting, so you can have information regarding where we are with that, because we are at the point where we need to probably start solidifying some of these design plans so we can move forward with the bid process and engineering process on these, so we can get out to bid in early fall and begin construction in late fall, early winter. So that's kind of the process we have to get. So we will bring you some information on June 9th, but I want to get to the committee prior to that on the 17th and let them have some say and input into it before we bring it to you. And Mr. Bauer will be here on the 9th to help present that information and answer questions. Are there any questions regarding where we are so far with the construction update?
I think we're good. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. The next we have is the Central Elementary restroom update, and I'm going to have, and also Mr. Rose needs to talk about the electric buses. So I'm going to have him speak to electric buses and then the Central Elementary School.
Madam Chair, members of the board, in regards to Central Elementary, like I said, the contract and everything is in place with the general contractor to start that work immediately after the close of the school season. I think it's like June 10th, that first Monday. So everything's in place, parts have been ordered, and we have about 24 bathrooms in Central to update, renovate, and so it's going to be a busy summer over there for that. In regards to electric buses, the buses have arrived at Sunday Merriman. Met with Appalachian Power Company again today, and to look at routing the power from the telephone poles, the power poles on the side of our Amherst Middle School over there, bore underneath the road, underneath the Gordon's Fairground, and then go underground down to where we're going to put the transformer out for the buses. We're still waiting on parts. Davis Electric is going to be doing the Davis Elliott rather is going to be doing the install work for us, the electrical aspect of it. They are still waiting for parts. Having trouble getting breakers, and so we're just in the process. That PO was signed back in early March, so it's just a matter of waiting on parts to get those in, and hopefully that'll be completed in the next month to 2 months, just as soon as we get the parts.
Madam Chair, I was curious to know what exactly we were doing with the bathrooms at Central.
So the bathrooms at Central, just like we've done in all the other, well, most of the other schools, not all of them, but over the last several years, renovations has been taking place to go in and replace the fixtures, also go in and redo the floor, take up the tile floor and put down another type floor in the bathrooms, which are easier to keep clean and maintain. Same thing as the walls. We have new wall surface that we put on the walls in the bathroom, so it's a matter of upgrading the fixtures and those type of things in all the restrooms in the schools. And that includes the large restrooms for has multiple toilets and sinks, as well as most of your kindergarten and first grade classes have individual bathrooms in them as well, and we'll be upgrading all those as well.
Would there be any way to update the bathrooms a little bit similar to what we're considering for the high school?
At this time, no, on this particular project. As we move forward, we can look at that as we move forward. We still have a couple of schools left to do, but I'm guessing, like I said, most of them was done prior to my arrival. I think we were about 75 to 80% through all the schools to do that. Like the high school had already been done, and we still have like Mount Austin Middle to do, Temperance, and a couple other schools. But for the most part, we're getting to the end of the schools. So as we move forward, we can look at those type of things, particularly on the large bathrooms in the hallway. We can look at those to see what you as a board or future boards would like to do.
Thank you so much.
And I think it's also at the elementary level, it's less of a concern at the middle and at the secondary levels. So therefore, it's something we can look at those levels too. But that's something, this contract is kind of straight with this, so we can't really change that contract. But moving forward, that's something we can, as we discuss next month at the June 9th meeting, as far as the plans and things of that nature, we can have more discussions on that moving forward.
Is there any way, sorry, thinking out loud here, is there any way to at least maybe put bigger store doors on, or stall doors?
Stall doors?
Yeah.
Floor to ceiling.
Yes, floor
Yeah.
to ceiling.
I'll have to talk to the contractor about that and see what the
Okay.
additional cost would be.
Thank you.
At those schools. Again, at elementary schools, it's not quite as much a concern as it is at the secondary schools, but that's something we can talk about and see where we are.
All right, thank you so
Okay.
much.
Yes, ma'am. The next thing, any other questions before I move on?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
do we have an ETA on those breakers for the electric buses?
No, sir. Campbell County sort of ran into the same issues as well. And not only that, but APCO getting transformers. And that's another issue. So it's a supply. And I contact Davis Elliott. I called him again today, and I talk to him every 2 or 3 weeks to see what an update is. And, you know, as soon as they get confirmation from their vendor, usually it's about 2 to 3 weeks out, he'll let me know. But I'm in constant contact with him to see when it's going to be coming. It's just a matter of getting the supplies in.
So nobody's given an ETA on any of the
No,
parts,
sir.
so we could be waiting till
When we first placed the PO, you know, they're looking at 10 to 12 weeks.
10 to 12 weeks.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's a possible we could start the school year without these electric buses?
I don't think we'll be that far, but I'm pretty confident we will be into mid to late June before, you know, school season will be out before the electric buses will have the charging stations in.
All right, thank you.
Dr. Wells,
Ma'am?
Mr. Rokes. So when was the last time our bathrooms in those elementary schools were updated?
When they were built?
Which is what year?
1964.
Sounds long overdue. Yay. The second question, as Ms. Berg was talking about the floor to ceiling, do we know how far the walls are planning to be right now?
They usually leave about a 1 foot gap at the bottom.
Okay, so traditional.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And the gang bathrooms. Now, the individual restrooms in the classrooms between first and second grade, those are floor to ceiling. Okay. All right. So I was hoping not to have to do one of these again, but I need to update you on some COVID information. So as of 3 o'clock today, since May 1st, this is in 12 days of May, we've had 31 positive cases among students. We currently have 19 active COVID-19 cases among students. We've had 4 positive staff, and we currently have 2 active cases among staff. That was as of 3 p.m. today. I have not updated my numbers since then. So we're looking at, you know, in the whole division right now, we've had 35 positive cases since May 1st, and again, we have 21 that are currently what we consider active, where they're home because they can't come to school because they are contagious.
Thank you. Madam Chair, may I ask a question?
Ms. Justice?
Okay.
Yes.
Dr. Wells, help me again understand the difference between a positive case and an active case.
So a positive case means they tested positive since May 1st, but they've gone through their quarantine and they're no longer considered contagious and they can return back to work or school. And an active case will be someone who is considered contagious or still symptomatic and therefore they cannot come to school.
So of our 31 positive cases, those were all symptomatic?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
And the last thing I have is the suspension report for the month of April, and pending any questions.
Okay, board members, any questions? Okay, hearing none, I guess that we are
All
good.
right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, finance.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school board. Tonight before you are your April financial reports. We have provided you your revenue and expenditure report for your child nutrition and your operating budget. We continue to monitor our receipts and our spend down, revenues being received as anticipated, and we are operating within our approved budget. One item on the other attachment for your local receipts, you may have noticed that that is a higher amount than you normally get in a given month, and that is because of your educational consortium deposit, which is your E-rate. And I just wanted to state that because that was almost $90,000. And even though E-rate is a FCC, it was established by the FCC. It is not funded federally, and we are required by VDOE to record that as local revenue. So that is the cause of that increase this month, and next month we expect it to go back down to normal. On the object code attachment, last month I had pointed out on page 4 and 5 where the CARES was over budget, and we had that major category that was over budget, and that supplemental appropriation did address that. And so you can see on those same pages that they're no longer over budget. We are still seeing the utilities and the fuel, but it's within what we were expecting, so we still have that same plan in place. In conclusion of my report, I do just want to, just to give you a heads up, you may have another supplemental appropriation for CARES because we have started today getting invoices on the high school renovation project, but that would be coming next month. Do you have any questions?
I have a quick one.
Okay.
I could call you about it, but maybe you can answer it quickly. I saw something on there called joint operations. Do you know what that would fall under that?
That
If
is
not, I-
usually the tuition payments, correct? Tuition payments
okay.
for like Laurel and such.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I think this is probably a good time to add this. We're still waiting on a state budget. We have gotten no information as to when it's going to show up. And I tell you, because Mr. Gallagher is going to need to send a letter to all staff beginning of next week to explain to them our intent to give them a contract when we in fact have a budget. We did this last year. The good thing about this year is that every other school division in the state has to do the exact same thing. So we just want our staff to feel comfortable in the knowledge that they are getting a contract. So if you see those or hear about those, that's going out next Tuesday? Tuesday, yeah.
Madam Chair? Yes, Dr. Arnold, I had a quick question. Do they have a date where they have to give us an answer on that by? What happens?
I think they've passed that in Pittsburgh. I think that was a couple months ago.
Because I was told when I asked, people in Richmond when to expect it, and I was told, don't hold your breath.
Right.
So my
in
concern
essence, it's been
is,
explained that they just stopped the clock.
Yeah.
I guess they have the ability to do that.
how are we going to, because it's Richmond. What are we going to do if they don't pass the budget and, getting ready to open up schools, purchasing food, getting, the diesel tanks filled, getting contracts for our teachers, or even trying to figure out how to budget in, their raise that we had to give them. I mean,
That's a real
we have
problem.
all this stuff coming up. I know, I'm from New York, and in New York, we had reserves for all that. We don't have that here.
No, ma'am.
So do we have any type of plan besides pray and pray really hard and often?
Talk
Or-
to our representatives.
Oh, I
Every
do.
single one of them, because we take a lot more money from the state than most. Almost 60, close to 70%. Close to 70% of our budget comes from the state, so we can't live off of federal and local. It's just not possible. So we're going to really need them to start acting. And I'm not, the first I saw was last week. I saw a couple of news stations do a feature on it, and that was just last week. So that's the first any kind of rumblings I've even heard about people saying, hey, we need a budget. So
Oh, I've spoken with several delegates. I've spoken with the Speaker of the House. I've spoken with, Senate, everybody.
yeah, it's unconscionable. We're going to be in a bad spot. And the other issue for us is that when we finally do get it, we have such a small department, they're going to have to turn around and get all of this accomplished and out to our staff, which puts an extra burden on them.
Is our summer school coming out of this past year's budget, or? Okay.
We have CARES funding for the summer school program. There is some local, but we could do that through CARES.
So how long are we good for without them passing a budget?
I've never
I guess the question you want to ask is, can we open school?
Yeah.
It's going to be how long you can have that school open. I mean, you do have the federal funds, but they are earmarked for certain staff members, and you do have the local appropriation, but you know, that's minimal compared to the state funding.
You'd have to meet payroll, because your folks won't show up if you're not going to pay them. And then we're going to have to get buses on the road. We'll have to put fuel in them. So we could probably open, but it wouldn't stay open very long.
If we're still waiting, are we able to borrow from like the high school building project and then pay? Okay.
Madam Chairman,
Ms. Justice?
quick question. I thought I recalled at a previous meeting that sometimes we haven't had budgets that were approved until September. Is that?
No.
No, never? Okay, thank you.
No, I think they've always been
June
approved
was
even
the
at the last
June
minute.
Last year, it was the longest.
Yeah, in the last minute, and it puts you guys in a crunch for sure, but it got done. But that's the latest. So maybe a good information for us to have for our June meeting is just sort of anticipating how long we can remain open.
Yeah.
You know, we may need to have a discussion with the Board of Supervisors. We need to prepare for that, and we do need to talk to our legislators and let them know where we are.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be doing this to
Absolutely.
our kids.
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
When do we usually start purchasing like supplies and everything for the next school year for like cleaning supplies, you know, food and stuff in the
We're
cafeteria?
using this year's money
Yeah, we've
to
already
do that
begun.
as well.
Yeah. So cleaning supplies and things like that have already been purchased using end of year funds and things of that nature, and CARES funds. But then,
And we have a chain supply issue, a serious chain supply issue where we started ordering our technology back in November to make sure that we have it, and we're still out probably half of what we've ordered.
But since 85% of our budget is around personnel, that's where our issue is going to be. I think we can get paper and pencils and those kinds of things, but paying our staff is going to be the biggest issue. And if we can't pay them, then
Well, I'm
But every
concerned.
locality is going to have that problem.
right.
Yeah.
I'm concerned even after, you know, the budget gets passed with, you know, the cost and food going up. They're saying, you know, we're gonna run out of diesel.
I don't think.
It's been on a lot of news that
No, I mean,
there's already
I
a
wasn't
diesel
gonna-
shortage.
Madam Chair, I'm just saying this is not the first time that Richmond has delayed the budget. And so I wouldn't want to send a message out there to everybody that's listening that we're all to pieces here. Because every school division is looking at the same thing, including where I work. So we have faith that they will come through at the last minute.
Well, I thank you very much for
I mean,
that confidence.
I've seen this situation many through the years. And it's a holdout between the two parties. And so when they decide to come together, we'll get a budget. And so I feel here in Amherst, we don't want to put another red button out there for everybody to cry tonight. We're going to be fine. I mean, all the other 28 divisions, 128 divisions of the state are going through the same thing.
And it's not just schools, it's state
Not just
police,
schools, it's
everything, law
everybody.
enforcement, all that's going to be.
Everybody.
So
And I agree with you, but we do need to talk to our legislators and put some pressure on them.
Pressure doesn't hurt. That's
That won't
correct.
hurt.
Exactly. Okay, I think we were still on finance. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Instruction.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Chair and members of the board, I have 3 items for you tonight. The first one, I just want to give you an update from our last meeting where I provided you information regarding the new accreditation provisions that were taken on by the state. We did have a memo that came out on May the 6th from our new state superintendent regarding chronic absenteeism. They have removed that indicator from our accreditation for the 22-23 school year. And they have actually, it will still be provided that information to the public for transparency, and it will be reported and calculated, but it will not go into whether or not a school is accredited for us or not. And that is based on all of the different concerns that we have had throughout the year in regards to students being able to attend because of COVID. Amherst County filed a waiver for this back in November, and I believe the state has taken a look at those waivers and a request for a waiver, and this was their information that they provided to us. So we're very, very pleased with that. The second thing that any questions on that? I'm sorry. Okay. The second thing that I have for you tonight is just an update in regards to our kindergarten registration. I am very excited. We had a lot of new registrants that came in, probably about 86 new kindergartners that we have registered so far. And we have screened over 198 already, which is outstanding. Normally we do not get that type of screening until right when school begins. And so I'm very, very pleased. In your memo is a chart for where we are at each of the schools and the level of that, so you would know. But across the division, we're really close to where we currently are, where we have been in the past. So I'm very excited about that. The last thing that I just wanted to review with you is summer school. We have been in the process probably since about January, talking about summer school with our families, getting them information. Last year, Mr. Neighbors ran summer school for us and coordinated all of that, and it was a true team effort by everyone here in the division, our community partners. This year, Dr. McGinnis is overseeing that process for us. And he is taking the template that was used last year and implementing it once again for our elementary and our secondary. The only thing that changes this year is due to construction. We are housing our secondary up at the high school. So our middle and high school are all based out of Amherst County High School, which the teachers and our community so far seem to be very pleased with that. And then we'll have one from Amherst Elementary that it will be based there in Madison Heights. We have 32 staff members that have been hired for different components of the programs. And then right now we are at 190 students that we have seen so far in regards to them attending summer school this year. Dr. McGinnis did put for you information in regards to what we're doing. We have some escape rooms that incorporate math, science, reading, and history that the high school students are going to be participating in, and they are all very excited about that. We also have a project that we are partnering with I forget the name of it, Sequest up at the mall for our middle school students, and then how to go about writing in regards to what happens in modern day media. And then in of course, our elementary, we're once again using the Power Scholars program, which we have seen huge success in that over the last several summer school programs, where we have shown significant growth in our children in the areas of reading and math. So I just wanted to provide you with that update, and we are ready for our students to come to summer school.
I wonder how many of us could get out of those escape rooms.
It's really hard. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. I have two items for you all this evening. I did want to start by noting that we had to participate in some of those escape rooms last summer, and many of us adults had quite a bit of difficulty with those. So I'm sure the students will do much better than we did. So what I wanted to start with is an update on where we stand with our early childhood programming. To date, we've received 103 applications for our early childhood programming. That is a huge number for us at this point in the year. So we're very excited about that. 83 of those students are eligible, so they meet criteria that has been set either through the VPI program, or we also have local criteria that we put on top of that. 8 are pending, which means that we're waiting on some additional documentation or information from the family to make that determination, and only 12 so far have not met criteria, would be ineligible for the program. Of all those 12, we have referred them to additional programming that's available at low or no cost in the community. We've been able to partner. I believe we provided some information on that at our last meeting. So we're still trying to find avenues for those families, even though for the VPI program, they don't meet criteria. So very, very pleased with our progress so far, fully expecting to be able to fill all of our projected slots for next year. We're also working next week. We have interviews for the new classroom that we're opening at Amherst Elementary School. Very pleased we actually have 3 qualified applicants for that position, which is 2 more than I thought we might have. So very, very pleased with that as well, and hoping that we find at least one good candidate for our students as a part of that process next week. Certainly able to answer any questions you might have at this point, but very, very pleased with the work that Ms. Albert has done to really pull this together, work with our community agencies, and we are well on our way to filling our slots and probably beyond for next year.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Rossi?
how many slots are available in the early learning program?
So for our VPI program, specifically looking at, we target 4-year-olds for that program. We have 127 slots available for our standards and what we do in regards to classroom density, which really comes down to the size of some of the rooms that we have. We're targeting right at about 118 to 120 slots, so that'll be our final number. And I fully expect we'll probably exceed that. We end up having a wait list some years. Most likely that'll be the case next year. With our community partners, we've been able to get those students plugged in. Even when they're on our wait list, we're able to get them in with some of our other community partners as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Rossi, just for perspective, each class, as we go along, typically has around 300 students total. So that 120 is quite a large group of students.
Absolutely.
All right. Moving on, last piece. I don't want to steal any of Ms. Ligon's thunder, but I did want to give the board an update where we stand with our Laurel Regional Program. We recently had a board meeting, and the board was very gracious in approving a plan put forward by the director, Dr. Donna Lewis, in regards to how we can expand Laurel and make it relevant as we move forward. I'm sure most of you are aware that historically, and as a legacy program, Laurel has served students with multiple disabilities, most of those being medically fragile students that require a significant amount of support within the school building and throughout the school day. Our numbers in that population have dwindled significantly over the past several years. When I came in, we had 13 students at Laurel. As of today, we have 4. All of that is because we had an older student population. Those students have moved on, either graduated or aged out. Some have transferred to other divisions, but most have just reached that age where they've moved on to other things. What's been put forward to the board there and what they voted on and approved is the addition of 2 aspects of the programming. So we currently have 2 classrooms that are dedicated to serving students with autism. We're expanding that to 3 for next year and able to grow that program by at least another 8 for as many as 10 students within that one classroom. We're also looking to add 2 programs that are dedicated to therapeutic behavioral support. Again, those classrooms can serve anywhere from 8 to 10 students, and divisions would share those available slots to be able to move forward. There's already discussion about being able to expand to a 3rd classroom in that particular regard, and looking forward other areas in the building that we could utilize to expand some of those programs even further. A lot of what the board has been discussing, a lot of what has been discussed by the directors group that works with Dr. Donna Lewis over there at Laurel, is the need for programming that addresses some of these behavioral concerns that we have with students that go beyond the capacities of our local school divisions and what we're able to do in those typical classrooms. Having this program available that really is going to serve as a temporary home for students to be able to go, have that behavior stabilized, really work on a plan, develop interventions, and then reintroduce them back into the school setting much more successfully than we would be able to do within our traditional settings, our traditional structures along those lines. We're very excited about that expansion. We really do feel like this honors the legacy of Laurel, but also keeps it relevant moving forward, lets it stay alive in a lot of ways, but for us in Amherst, really feel like this moves us in a direction where it becomes much more useful to us as a community resource, and we can serve many more students as a part of that. Honestly, what's an investment for us? So again, would be happy to take any questions, or Ms. Ligon, if you'd like to add anything, you're part of that meeting as well.
Very thorough.
Yeah, but we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about that.
Thank you. Human Resources?
All right, Madam Chair, Mr. Co-Chair, members of the board. So I have several things for you this evening. The first is our monthly vacancy memo that you have before you. Next month in June, just note that all of those will transition into just basically one group of vacancies for the upcoming 22-23 school year. But that is, as it currently stands, still divided into the current year and next year, and I'll take any questions that you might have.
Board members, you have any questions? Thank you, Mr.
Madam
Mrs.
Chair,
Burke?
I was just wondering how interviews have been going.
They've been going frequently and busy, and they've been very good. We've had some solid candidates. We have a lot of interviews upcoming within the next 2 weeks. You saw Ms. McNerney in here earlier, who won an award. Well, we kept her extremely busy. She's the one who coordinates our interviews, so this is an active time. So it's been very positive thus far. We've had some excellent candidates hired, and we'll be busy with this process through the end of June. I would imagine it will continue. So, but it has been productive thus far and quite busy. This is the time.
Are we having quite a few people put in for these positions then, or?
We are having not as many as we would like. We have had actually, though, however, compared to what we've had recently over the course of the year, we've been pleasantly surprised in a lot of categories that we've had applicants for English, for example, for preschool teacher, for example, that we didn't anticipate maybe those numbers. So it's kind of ebbed and flowed. Some areas maybe not as much as others. We've been very strong in elementary teacher applications. So we still are typically low in math, CTE, and English overall. Even though we've had some strong, viable candidates, it's still not as high as we'd like to see that.
All right, are we pretty hopeful that we'll be able to fill all our slots?
I'm very hopeful. We're working very hard, diligently. We're communicating. We're looking at every avenue. You know, as I told you before, this past year is probably the first year, at least since I've been in this position, where we didn't have 100% fill rate, you know, by the middle of the school year, for example. So that made me uneasy that didn't occur. So my goal and my hope is that we'll be at 100% going into the coming school year, and I feel confident about that.
And do we know by this time in the year that the teachers that we do have currently that are teaching, that we're going to be retaining all that we have left?
We have submitted, actually, this evening, we submitted our recommendations of all staff to return for the next school year. And again, as Dr. Arnold had alluded to, we'll be sending out letters of contract assurance by Tuesday, just to help ease those anxieties, if any, that we do intend to offer them a contract. And I also have faith that we will have an approved state budget before it is too late, so I don't want to have a bleak outlook on that either. I know that will happen. I will trust that the representatives at the state level understand the impact of their decisions on all school divisions in the Commonwealth, and so that we'll be able to move forward. But we're doing all we can to reassure our teachers, because we have such value in those individuals and are very thankful that they are returning.
Now, when we send out those letters,
Yes, ma'am.
are we going to be able to hear back within a couple of weeks, the teachers that plan on staying, or is that going to be a big window until we have our budget passed?
Well, hopefully we'll hear quickly. And again, this isn't for them to tell us that they're not returning. If in fact they decide that they're going to leave, or someone has a different opportunity, they will let us know as that occurs. This is really our assurance to them that we plan to offer them a contract. And what is helpful about this process is it's run through our Talent Ed electronic system that they're familiar with. Evaluations are conducted through that as well, so they'll receive it immediately, and they just have to electronically click to accept that. So it'll be easy to track also.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Madam Chairwoman, may I ask a question? Mr. Gallagher.
Yes, ma'am.
When, I know teachers will generally sign, I'm not certain the exact title, but it's like, I'm planning to return. Letter of
Correct.
intent. When do you normally see a majority of those? Is it midsummer? Is it?
Are you asking me when the letters of intent are distributed?
When do you usually receive them? Because I think they've already been distributed.
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
I believe they were sent out the 1st of January and then were returned within, I think we gave them a month, I believe, was the end of
okay.
January.
Okay.
And we've had those confirmations.
So what percentage would you say of our current teachers have given an intent to return next year?
Well, those that have identified either an intent to return or undecided has been a very high number. There were a percentage of undecided that are still unknown, but we have not had an overly abundant number of individuals, at least to date, and I want to knock on wood and not jinx anything, to indicate a resignation, although that, again, we're in May, so that can change.
Final question. The undecided, is it about equivalent to previous years?
No, it's probably higher than previous years. I think I reported on that when I talked about letters of intent previously, and I can't remember the exact percentage, but it was higher than in a typical year.
Thank you.
And that
I
was
appreciate
probably an early February meeting, perhaps, is when we discussed that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Mr.
All right, thank you.
Gallagher?
Appreciate that. The second memo I have there is to consider approval of administrative hearing officers. That request is applicable to current board policies, GBM, which is professional staff grievance, and also GBMA, which is support staff grievance. The reason that that's applicable is under GBM, professional staff grievance, under procedures for dismissal, that section of the policy, under number 1, there is an option, there's not a mandate, but an option that the board may appoint a hearing officer. That's been an option and in place in our policy for years. So in the event that we wish to appoint a hearing officer rather than hear a grievance for professional staff dismissal, rather than the board hearing that, you would have that option. There's no mandate to that. Under GBMA support staff grievance, under our current policy, there is a requirement under procedures number 2 where the superintendent shall select an external hearing officer selected from a list approved by the school board. So the reason that we have this in front of us today is to make sure that we are in accordance with that policy. And I've provided a list of individuals who are qualified retired school administrators with experience in school policy, school operations, and school administrative processes. So the reason I bring that before you today is to consider that for approval. I hope to never have to be in a position to have to use it, but if there is an event that we do, we have to be prepared with qualified individuals who are impartial and also very knowledgeable of procedures in public schools. And I'll take any questions that you have for me on that.
Questions?
Madam Chairman,
Ms.
I have a
Justice?
question. Mr. Gallagher, of the individuals on our list here, are any of them new, or are they all from previous years?
We have not had a list of hearing officers in the past. We've approved, the support staff grievance policy was approved in August of 20, and yet we don't have a list for that. We'd like to come into compliance to make sure. We've not had to have the need for that, but if we do, we'd like to have that available. It has always been an option under GBM, but to my knowledge, we've not had a list submitted for selection in that regard. And it's not a requirement, but it still would. If you choose that, it would be nice to have someone available to select from.
That looks great. I know, at least as a newcomer, I'm familiar with Mr. Quill. So, and I presume the rest of you are quite familiar with the others. So that's great. That's fantastic that you've been proactive in getting this list together, which is a support to our staff that they're going to get an unbiased, strong hearing here.
Okay, I assume that we need to make a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion we approve the list of hearing officers as presented.
Okay, I have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Burke. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Mr. Gallagher. Motion carried.
Thank you all. The third item I have are the employee work calendars. These are the 2022-23 employee work calendars for licensed and classified personnel in accordance with their annual contract periods. So there are 250-day contracts, 200-day contracts, 220-day contracts, and 190-day contracts. These go out with individuals who have contracts within those those time periods, those date ranges, with their contracts when they're submitted and distributed. But each year, we provide this to you for review and approval, so you understand the number of days, the different days they have off, in essence, their work calendars. But we do submit those for your review and approval on an annual basis. And I'll take any questions if you have, but I'm asking for you to review those, and if you have questions, please ask, otherwise we would ask for your approval.
Okay, any questions that you might have?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Greiser?
Yes, sir.
Move to approve those calendars as presented.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor, and I need a second.
Second.
I have a second from Mrs. Ligon. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, with this calendar, I know that we received an email probably about 3 weeks ago from an employee who had questions regarding the work schedule. Do you remember?
It was actually about the length of the school year.
Thank you.
Not the
Yes,
school.
So this has
and
nothing
this
to do with.
is not a
Thank you.
calendar, this
right.
is just the days in the calendar that each different group
Group of
of
employees.
employees have off.
Thank
Or
you.
work, yes.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, I re-invite all of you next Thursday to Prothro for our retirement dinner. That will begin at 6 o'clock at Prothro Sweetbriar College. Love to have you present for that dinner. I think it's going to be an amazing event. And I just wanted to make sure that I just threw that shout out one more time. So,
Thank you.
and you're welcome. And that's all I have this evening.
Okay, I think we are down to hear from Mr. Garrison.
Good evening, everyone. I have a few things I just want to mention tonight. It's my last meeting, I believe, of course. And I've had a really great year. I've really enjoyed, even though it's been really crazy, missing one here and there. It's been really interesting seeing how the school board works and how things change, however sometimes slowly that might happen. But just a few things that have happened this month at the schools. Prom, unofficially, happened. It was a really nice event. The parent committee did a great job with that. Mr. Greiser, thank you for helping with the shuttle on the bus. That was actually very nice. I didn't want to walk all that way. The Golden A and the Golden Tassel ceremony. These past few weeks, Ms. Ligon, thank you for coming to both of those. I'm sorry I didn't get to speak with you, but I appreciate you coming nonetheless. This upcoming Monday, we have the senior recognition ceremony at the high school. I don't know if any of you guys are planning on attending, but that's when any scholarships are announced, various awards and things like that for the seniors. And then, of course, graduation on the 27th. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. I know I am. Also, the other programs such as Governor's School, STEM Academy, and CVCC are all wrapping up or already finished. I know Governor's School's last day is tomorrow. I am looking forward and not looking forward to that. I'm sure you understand. Also, there was a band concert last week. I don't know if any of you guys were able to go to that. My sister played in it. They did really well. And then I just want to say thank you for everything for my time here. I only moved here in 8th grade, so this is my 5th year in Amherst County. But almost every single opportunity I've been able to utilize to get into the colleges that I got into, get the scholarships that I got, has either been directly from Amherst County or facilitated through Amherst County. Just to mention a few, robotics, and I want to thank Ms. Phillips. I know that she's no longer with the school system, but I thank her for her initial support. Mr. Martin, he's always been a supporter of the robotics team. Most recently, Ms. Ashton, who just joined the school system this year and has been amazing with STEM. Ms. Gray and Mr. Jordan have also been incredibly supportive this year. Tech Club with Mr. Cargill, he was actually my Golden A Profound Educator. Really appreciate everything that he does with my internship and everything. Governor's School, you guys make that possible. You let the students go and have an awesome time learning so much cool stuff. I'm sure you're all at least vaguely familiar with the program at Governor's School and STEM Academy and the other ones. And a little bit more niche one, some online space courses that were shown through the school system. Carl Hayden, I don't know if any of you guys remember him from a few years ago. He advocated for that, and actually this summer I'll be going to the NASA Langley facility to work with some NASA scientists on designing a Mars mission. Just a bunch of excellent teachers I've had the opportunity of having. Miss Stinson this year especially, and last year through the whole pandemic has been fantastic. And then of course you guys for having this awesome opportunity to see everything about what you guys do. Dr. Arnold for selecting me, and you guys for allowing it to happen. I hope it'll be able to continue in the next few years. I do want you guys to try and remember that students really want to learn. It's just kind of creating the learning environment, and that's really hard when students aren't in the building, as I'm sure you guys know. But a lot of that is supporting the teachers and administration and allowing them to create that environment for the students to be able to learn. And that might sound confusing, but just encouraging the teachers, you know, I was listening to your discussion about the state budget and all that, and assuring the teachers, hey, you're good, we got you. That's exactly what kind of helps them out, you know. And then if the teachers are motivated, then the students will follow suit and be motivated as well. And just kind of with that, I think it's important to encourage a variety of activities, from field trips like the trout releases that happened over the last month or so with the elementary schools, middle school, and I think high school as well. The JAG field trips, those are also really impressive and cool. And then engaging hands-on activities in the classroom alongside the regular coursework. Everything works together, and I've learned that at Governor's School. You need all the different activities in order to create a complete learning experience that I feel ready for college. Between my experience at Amherst and Governor's School, I feel ready, and I think a lot of my fellow students do as well. And I just want to say, like Dr. Ron mentioned earlier, I'm going to University of Alabama, Huntsville. I'm confident that I'm going to be able to do well there and in my career, hopefully living on the moon. I'm not kidding. I want to live on the moon. That would be really cool. And I'm looking forward to using the skills and all the experiences that I've gotten here in that career and at those opportunities. I'm also confident that, especially robotics, you know, my little baby, will definitely continue on and hopefully help with a lot more students as it continues. And I think you guys hopefully will continue with those STEM activities, learning opportunities, and hands-on experiences that are really important to students being engaged and learning. I want to thank you one more time for this amazing opportunity, and I hope you guys have a great next few school years for however long you might be serving on the board.
So one more nugget for Peter. At the Golden Tassel ceremony, we learned that for the NHS, Peter served as the parliamentarian. So he could have, if y'all would have asked, been a great help to all of us.
Next time, stand up and
That's
and
right.
say, hey. Well, thank you very much, Peter. Sounds like exciting things ahead, and we just have really appreciated having you with us. Dr. Arnold.
Yes, ma'am. So I have VSBA listed here, and that is because there was a request to discuss Amherst County's involvement with the Virginia School Board Association. I was submitted 6 questions. Do you want me to read the questions and answer the questions first, and then you go from there?
That sounds good, because I don't see the answers here.
Right, right. I think that would be fine. I know
Right.
there has been some.
It'll give you some context, and then you have whatever discussion you want to have
Yes,
with it.
thank you.
So the first question was, what's the contract cost? We pay $8,000 a year in contract, and then we pay $2,500 for policy services. So when all of the school systems work together and pay $2,500, that's how all the school systems get policy from a on-site lawyer at the VSBA. Second question is, what do they lobby for specifically? And so there is an agenda that so Ms. Ligon is would you like to discuss this? Ms. Ligon is the legislative representative. And so they meet every November at the statewide meeting, and they discuss legislative topics, and then you vote on them, is my understanding. So there's a legislative topics put out there. Every representative in every school division that's in the Virginia School Board Association has a a voice in that room and they vote on it. And once those things have been decided as an entire state, that's where the lobbyists then go do their work. So for example, one issue, Ms. Thompson, you might, 2 years ago, there was the law that was passed, or they were talking about the law that was to give teachers the right to collectively bargain. The Virginia School Board Association, in discussion about that, decided that they didn't think that that would be a good idea for the Virginia School Board Association to back. So that's what the lobbyists went to Richmond and said, please don't vote for that. Right. So the lobbyists act on behalf of the Virginia School Board, and the School Board Association is each member, right? Each division that is a part of that organization. And that's 133 school divisions. The other question, do they recommend changes which are more than required by law? So all school boards have to review policies periodically. And so what it's been explained to me by the VSBA lawyer is they review them. She reviews them, and when they find inconsistencies between older policies and things that they've had to change, whether that's in language use or otherwise, maybe even inappropriate verbiage, that they'll change that outside of what the law is. If that makes any sense? Yeah.
So when you talk about consistency between policy and practice, are we talking about they look at our individual policies, or, okay?
Well, our individual policies are their policies because they've written them because we ask them to write them for us. We've been doing that since, your other question, 1992. So Amherst County Public Schools has been a member of the VSBA. And so we do have policies because we don't have to adopt all VSBA policies. We do have policies that are Amherst County Public Schools specific policies. They, however, are not, because they're not VSBA policies, they are not supported by the legal arm of the VSBA, right? So that's why it's so important for our own internal lawyer to make sure we got our I's dotted and T's crossed, so to speak, right? And then your question was, if we do not renew membership, will we still have access to board docs? Board docs doesn't have anything to do with the VSBA. That's a mechanism for holding information. It's like a filing cabinet, and so that's just a software thing. It's not a VSBA product, so we would keep that. And then finally, do they represent bipartisan legislation? If so, what are some examples? I mentioned the collective bargaining. That one was supported by conservative groups to not have collective bargaining for our teachers, and so they've gone back and forth. And I think mostly it depends on what's best for schools, as opposed to a political view. But I mean, I can't say that they are or they are not partisan or bipartisan. All I can say is that you guys are the VSBA. I mean, you're a member of their group. And those were the 6 questions, and those were the answers I came up with.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Thank you, appreciate that. I want to say that I have been on the board for 6 years, and I have not heard a lot about the legislative process. So I spoke with Mrs. Ligon today, and I know that she has been involved and has a little better understanding of that than I do, so perhaps she can shed a light on that. I have been with you once to the VSBA, I think, legislative process, and I sat with you as we did that. But maybe you can share with us a little bit. The piece that I would like to help me fill in with my understanding is, how do we as a board engage and give input into the legislation that the VSBA is considering before the November meeting? So that's the piece and gap I have. So what can you share with us?
Well, I'll answer your question after I ask more information. First of all, before I answer any questions, and I will, I'm trying to get to the bottom of this conversation. Other than the six or seven questions and who asked them, I don't know if I saw it or not. What is the basis for this conversation about the VSBA? Then I'll go forward.
Well, I can share with you what I know, and then others can chime in. I know that there have been some people in our community that have questioned our expenditures with the VSBA, feeling as if it is a partisan type of organization, or at least slant. So that I think that conversation has been taking place in the public. It showed itself a little bit at the Board of Supervisors meeting, where there were public members that spoke against it and us providing funding to pay for this. So there was a member on the Board of Supervisors that asked us as a board to look into it and to look at how we were expending our funds. So I felt that it was important that we all had a clear understanding of the VSBA when there were people calling for us to remove ourselves from the VSBA, just like the VSBA removed itself from the National Association. So I think I always want to have clear understanding before decisions are made. So that's where this has come from. I know Mrs. Justice has also, in trying to help facilitate that conversation, came up with some questions to help lead and start the conversation. And then I wanted some additional, I just felt that we as a board need to at least address it and make sure we're clear.
Okay, that's good. That's what I was trying to get to. Ms. Justice, do you have anything to add to that? Someone has asked you the same thing?
Definitely, yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
all right. Well, I'm just going to give overall. First of all, 100% of the schools in the state of Virginia belong to the VSBA as of this morning. I have, as Dr. Arnold said, we have been a member of this organization since '92. I'm talking about Amherst. Is that correct? And I came in '99, so we've been around it for a minute. Just like any other organization that we belong to, for instance, let me just be quick. I belong to the Board of Medicine because of the job I do. I belong to the Radiology Society of Virginia and of the state. These are things that I've joined to back me up of what I do. The VSBA is the same thing. It is an organization that backs up and supports and provides valuable information to school board members. My first meeting there, and I went right away with Dr. Daniels, he said to me, Priscilla, in order to know what you need to do, you need to go to VSBA meetings to have a full knowledge of policy, budget, laws, all of these sort of things. Now, this word partisan, I'm not into that. The VSBA, from what I have dealt with since 1999, is for all the kids of the state of Virginia. It does not represent, as far as I have noticed, any conservative party whatsoever. Otherwise, I wouldn't be there. Now, we have meetings. The Southern Region, which is the president at this time, is Amy McClure. The Southern Region, which Amherst belongs to, has meetings in the spring where these legislative policies or positions are brought up to all school board members. And you have the opportunity there to say, I don't want tax, I don't want electric bus, I don't want collective bargaining, I don't want TBO, what is that, TBO, help me out, the law.
The homeschool thing.
This is where we meet and have these conversations. Also, on the webinars, on the website, on the policy page, and every day from J.T. Kessler on that VSBA news we get, they speak about upcoming or events of policies or legislation policies that they're lobbying for in Richmond. So every school board member, not just myself, I'm just the one who is reading it, and no board member since 1999 has asked me or any of the other people before my time to say we don't want that. They have read it, they have looked at it, they're familiar with it, and then when I go to the assembly, I'm merely sitting in the audience representing Amherst County, sitting beside Appomattox on one side and Albemarle on the other side. And these legislative policies, which has been out there for all school board members to look at for a year, are asked and voted on, majority voting. Not a partisan, not a public, not a Democratic, not a Republican party is in that room. Now, you may not agree with whether we should have electric buses or whether we should raise fees of lunch. That is the time before November when we have the southern meetings that school board members have the opportunity to voice their opinion, or they can tell me, at this time, I represent us, but that don't have to be. No, I mean, if you want me off of that, fine. I represent Amherst County, and I asked, and I have not received anybody that said, go to Williamsburg and vote against this. Because they're all out there. I could not find my book tonight, Natalia. You don't have one, but don't bring it. This great big book comes of all these things in it. But school board members have seen that because it's been out there on these pages. And no one has said to me yet, go to Williamsburg and vote against that, because I would surely do it. Now, obviously, when I'm in that room, many things are brought up. Most of the time, no one says anything about anything because it's kind of general knowledge. It's just things that are going on, kind of like Dr. Arnold said, some of these local policies that we looked at tonight that VSBA is supporting. These are the type things. Nothing drastic has come down the pipe. Collective bargaining was a big article. The T-Bow, who could homeschool kids, could participate in sports, big article. Every school board member has the right to go on the website and find out what is up for grabs. And then tell me if you don't want it. But if you don't attend the Southern Regional meetings, if you don't I go to the law conference every June that I can possibly go to hear what J.T. Kessler has to say. Now, in our last meeting in April, I don't know what date it was, Dr. Arnold, I was there. It was by Zoom this time. Kessler gave all the things to all the school board members of what's coming down the pipe. And he said, contact me if there's an issue or if your school board has something to say about it. So it's wide open opportunity. Elizabeth Ewing, J.T. Kessler, it's not the board of directors for the VSB. It's not Gina Patterson. It is the school boards and their representative. Just like we sat here and discussed policies, you might see something that's coming out of VSBA that's coming up for November, and all these things is going to Richmond, Department of Education involved. We have a lobbyist, just like anywhere else, that's saying we want this. And believe it or not, I have found that it's for the most of the time, 98% of the time, these have been good rules and regulations, good legislative positions for the kids in this county, for Amherst. It's not a conservative issue. It is a child issue. When I am making a decision and raise my flag representing Amherst, it is for the good of the children. I haven't brought anything back here yet that was bad. Now, if we want to open up this can of worms of this being a conservative town and we want more conservative ideas on the VSBA, so be it. But it won't be me, because I'm looking after the children. And if we can bring, to Natalia, can you find that book for me next week? Whenever the next meeting, you can see some of the positions and some of the things that are voted on by a majority, not just Amherst and Albemarle and Appomattox, by a majority of school boards, 128, looking out for the good of the children. That's it. That's the only reason I'm there. And I've been a delegate, and I have a backup. Who is the backup this time?
I think I am.
Okay. So we can get involved. We can get involved. And I just go. I was elected to go. I had fun going. It's not a big deal. I don't get paid to sit in there. I do listen. I do my homework before I get there. I do my homework when I get back. I talk to all the people around. I just talked to James Coleman in Lynchburg today. I talked to some people down in Brunswick County. We communicate, not because I'm the legislative representative, but we just find out what's going on. And every school board member should attempt to attend the Southern Regional, that's us, meeting in April. Come to the June law conference at Short Pump. These are where you find out what's on the burner. And sometimes I come back and report what I heard. I usually come back and say, at the law conference, X was discussed. It might not need a vote, but I bring it back. That's why I go. I bring back information. I mean, But I'm willing to turn this over if you feel like I haven't done my job. And I'm not on the rebound here, and I'm not on the defense. But not everything is partisan. Not everything is conservative, not everything is Democratic, not everything is Republican. This is Virginia School Board business. And if we decide to come out of it, what are you going to do? Who is going to be your backup? Who is going to represent you? Who is going to do your policies? We can't create all this stuff ourselves. We may think we can. And yes, people in the public are all of a sudden wanting the school board to do this, that, pull out, get rid of people. Let me tell you, it is a very bad habit and a very bad road we're going down. And that's all I got to say about it.
Well, thank you, Ms. Leggett. I appreciate your legacy. I know that you have been the longest standing member on the school board, and you have a lot of knowledge. And I've taken some notes because I'm aware of the November meeting. I know when Dr. Daniels was, not Dr. Daniels.
Nichols?
Dr. Nichols was with us, so that's when I came on. And I know that we got together and we actually went as a group and we went to the Southern Regional Conference.
We did.
And I remember that. It's been a while, so that might be something good for us to continue to do.
Well, it was open for us this year. I think I might have been the only one there. Let's not, and I don't want to use this thing about the senior member. I'm very old, yes indeed. But every day I'm renewing my information. I'm not going back to 1999 when I got here. Things have changed. And I'm changing with them. So I'm glad to be a senior member on the board and senior age as well. But it's for everybody. All we have to do is tune in to the broadcast and find out everything that VSBA is talking about daily. I begin my morning after devotions looking at the VSBA because I got to know what I'm doing.
And we appreciate that because a lot of us are new. I'm not as new. I am in tune some, but I'm not as in tune as you are. So that's good information for us to have. You know, you're talking about a book with the policy. That's some of the things that we can look at. So I know that there have been some concerns with not just policies, not just lobbying, some like training sessions. So anything that we can do to get involved with the VSBA to have that conversation. I do know that I have spoken with some at the VSBA, as I know Dr. Arnold has done to prep for tonight. And I do think that they are open to having some conversations and making sure that we understand how the process works. It's not an institution or an organization that just shuts the door to us. There are some concerns that I do have. That's my own personal concerns that I can share. But for the moment, for today, I wanted us to be informative and make sure that we have, if there's questions that we need answered, that we have those on the books and we can get the answers to it. Some of mine have already been answered tonight. So board members, what would you like to
Madam Chair,
talk
I
about?
just had a question. I just wanted to thank Priscilla for everything she has done there for us. Nobody is saying Priscilla does not do her job and does not represent Amherst and represent Amherst well. I believe that we would like to see a more transparency so we know, like, hey, this is coming up, you need to look at this over here and that over there. And also for the Virginia State School Board Association not being partisan, I'm sorry, I went to the last meeting, or the last one in Richmond that we all went to, and they had people up there on mic cracking jokes about abortions and about uteruses and hired a Democratic strategist that was very political. So politics are involved, and unfortunately they're involved in everything. And some of the things that are happening in the Virginia State School Board Association, a lot of not just Virginia or Amherst, but all of Virginia is seeing it, and people are getting upset. I know there's no other option right now, but I'd like to keep the door open, so hopefully one day there will be options out there for people. We have all choices and can choose to go wherever we want to and hopefully find a nonpartisan one, because Virginia State School Board Association is not nonpartisan, not in the very least.
And one other comment to your
Ms. Leggett?
Your comment is well taken, Madam Chair. Not only do I find out, or VSBA, but VAST the superintendents are aware of these legislative priorities, and Dr. Arnold has on many occasions brought these to our attention. I mean, when I was his chair, he and I talked many times about what VAS had said, and VAS goes, what does that stand for, Virginia?
Association.
Superintendents, yeah. They discuss the same things, but they're not separate from the school board. They are aware of the priorities coming down the pike, and he has on many occasions brought that. So that'd be another avenue, Madam Chair, is for the superintendent, whoever it is, now or later, will also be an avenue for you to find out these sort of things.
Yeah, I would suggest, because we get about 5 a day.
Yeah.
You guys do too, emails.
Yeah.
And I know it's a lot to keep up with, but that's the first step, is making sure you keep up with what is being said and what's being put out there. Because if you wait until the end, and when all the voting happens, there's been a year of stuff that's gone out. I would just urge you to do that up front. That's the first thing I would do, is make sure I knew everything that was put out there. I understand that's hard, but
It is hard, and maybe it's something that, if we can, how would you say, plan backwards, if there's a Southern Regional meeting in the spring, we've just had that, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and was policies
Yes,
and,
Katie Kessler presented.
and those were presented there? So perhaps we can, in part of our work session, we can talk about and have those presented to us, so that we can talk about them and we can respond to them. I know that I have spoken with the chairman of the VSBA board. He is very open to us contacting them and talking with them. So I think that might be a place, maybe we could have started earlier than that, but it's never too late to start. So that might be something that you would like to consider, if we can talk about what was said at the Spring Regional Conference, what was being presented, what we can find avenues to express our viewpoints as a board, perhaps.
Madam Chairwoman.
Ms. Justice.
Thank you. So I cannot speak to others' experience. I can only speak to my experience. When I went to the new school board association, no, the Virginia School Board Association new member orientation, it was very clear. I have the list of them here, where the lawyer, I don't remember her name, but she went through all the bills that were in the legislative session there and who was sponsoring them, and took an active part against all bills that were giving school choice, parental choice, money following the child, being more inclusive towards homeschoolers and other programs, and even charters, and was actively ridiculing the policies and the lawmakers. And it was nearly 100% all directed towards one side of the aisle. I've received action alerts that have said, contact your legislators, they're trying to pass this parental rights thing. When you mentioned VAS, VAS in the last 2 months sent out that one letter that said, all superintendents are opposed to what Governor Youngkin is proposing in this executive order. And it was an order on parental rights and the right of parents to know what's best for the kids and to be involved in the education of their kids and how it's happening, and to provide greater variety of choices for students and more unique opportunities. So that was one of the things that I have had a problem with VSBA in my experience. I've also received action alerts and professional development on how to racially hire. Divisive issues, yes, about how to support critical race theory, equity in education, not equity of opportunity, but equity of outcome, which is very different. And these are not issues that at least our voters have appeared to support. As far as alternatives to the training and stuff VSBA offers, my understanding is previously there were not options. But over the last year and a half, there have been a lot of options. You've had Middle Resolution, which had an educational policy get together where you had legislators there, you had school board members there, you had nonprofits there, and they were collaborating and sharing. So what my concern is that, yes, we need to be more involved, but from what they've been sending out to me, in my emails at least, it has not been pro-parents. It has not been pro-child through parents. It has been pro-central authority in the schools as knowing best, and we need to keep it here and not collaborate with people that see differently than yourself. The policy side of it, that does become, the other thing for myself is I know that last fall, they sent down the policy KNA on the sex offender registration notification. That policy was reducing the steps that should be taken to keep our kids safe. And it was reducing information that was being dispersed and disseminated to those who were on staff and who were taking care of the kids. The policy tonight, I think it was BBA. It was talking about it was changing the language of our legal status as a school board, from obeying the Constitution, deriving our authority from the Constitution of Virginia and the Virginia Code and the Board of Education, I think, BDOE board. Anyways, it was reducing it down to the Constitution and laws of Virginia. When it comes to policy and law, specificity is really important. And so I have seen very few policies come down in the last 8 months that were beneficial.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Arnold, I know that we've talked about the cost of our contract. Can you talk to us about the costs that would be incurred and what we would have to do if we were not members of the VSBA?
There would be one of two things. You already have an attorney on retainer, or you can hire somebody that's their job in the school system. However, I would suggest it would be an attorney. So either way, you're going to pay an attorney's fees, because none of us in this room or up there have the legal wares, I guess, unless you went to law school, and I'm sorry, I didn't know that. To put policies out there that are going to keep us straight with the law. So, as you know, the amount of conversations we had to have with our attorney this year, due to several things that we had to bring him here, what that cost us. It was quite significant. So anytime you talk about and I have no idea how to put a number on someone that's full-time writing policy, or reviewing policy, or updating policy. So that would be, well, let me say this. We're paying currently $2,500. That's not even close to that. I don't know I can go an hourly rate that we currently pay, but I would suggest it's going to be significantly higher. But that's just the money.
Because that person would not only have to write the policy, but that person would also have to stay abreast of the legislation and make sure that they understood the alignment with that. Okay. All right, so board.
And we'd still have to vote to approve the policy. So if they wrote it some way that we didn't appreciate it, just like when VSBA sends us something, we have the ability to approve it.
Right.
Right.
Right. With the VSBA, we don't have to approve it the way it is. We have the freedoms to make those adjustments to the policies.
You always do.
Yes.
That's right. And you have an attorney on retainer that can update those
Right.
things for you.
Right. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. I was hoping that we could have a discussion tonight, then you guys can talk about it and decide how you want to move forward, but I think discussion would be plenty for tonight, if that's okay. All right. Let's see, what do we have next?
I have continuity of services. That is the plan that this board approved in June and August of last year. That was how we were handling COVID. We had to have that plan in place so we could receive the funds from the care packages, right? And so we are required by law to update you on any changes that we need to make based on changes to either health mitigation strategies or the fact that all students are in the classroom, those kinds of things, every 6 months. And so we brought it to you in December. Here are the things that have been updated. We have to bring it to you now because we have to post it in June to the community to see what's actually been changed in the plan. So there's a lot of health mitigation things that have been removed from the plan. That's the majority of the changes. I have both Dr. Wells and Dr. Norman with me if there are any specifics that you want to ask about, but those changes you can see they've been crossed through or highlighted if they were added, but it's mainly to reflect what we're currently doing. It's not a document that says here's what is going to happen 6 months from now. It's what's happening right now. But we have to present it to the public in June. It will go on the website again. Well, it's already on the website, but the updates will go on the website, and so it is completely out there for everyone to look at, to comment on, and we haven't had any comments on it at all, actually. In August, yeah, in August, but since August, we've not had any. But it's my responsibility to present it, to say we've done that. Certainly, if you have questions, in the meantime, you can ask us. If you don't have them tonight, we can certainly get you answers.
When are you planning to put this on the website?
It has to be June.
June 1st.
Yeah.
Okay. There were some things that I had a little confusion on when I was reading it, just because it said will continue as stated. So there was just a few things, and some of them revolved around the COVID-19 mitigation plan. There were a lot that was extracted. I'm just going to give you one thing. It said in CTE, the students that use common tools will use gloves. So I'm thinking, are we really still doing that?
No.
So that's just a detail. That's just a detail. I'm not asking you to address it at this point, but what I'm trying to say is there were little things that I noticed, and so I didn't know when it was going on the website, so we could address some of those with you, so maybe we could deal with that. Just with an email or something. Right. But then there was one that I noticed, Life Push LLC, and that was a new one to me. I don't know anything about it.
Yes, you do. That's the organization that works at the Alternative to Suspension Center. It's the counseling piece that y'all approved 3 years ago when we did
I guess I just didn't recognize the name.
The name,
I know the counseling center that we put in.
Yeah, so they're the group that when students go there for behavior, they work through those behaviors with the students on how to better handle situations so they don't end up back in that situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's very helpful. I appreciate that. So I don't know about you guys, if you have looked at it and you have other comments. I had a few that I wrote down, but I can handle them not now.
Okay,
I know my deadline.
You just send it to us, because if we miss something like the gloves, we can certainly, because we certainly aren't asking.
I didn't think so, but Anyone else? June 1st would be when it would go on, so if there's things you see and you need to address before that time, or if you have them now.
I only had one question, I think. I was trying to find it again, and I believe it was with the special needs, and it was referring to items that could not be WASH, that they would be removed, whereas prior, during COVID, it appeared that if it couldn't be WASH, then it would be dedicated to one student. And so it seemed to me that by doing that, I'm trying to find it, sorry, that by removing the item and not just dedicating it to one person, that you were reducing resources, that it was reducing resources. So I can, that's the only question, and I can, as soon as I find it, I can send it to you.
Okay, that's fine.
And I have one more. This is a general thing. I understand that this was planned for safe return to in-person instruction. And during the timeframe that we were dealing with COVID and returning, it was very much about COVID strategies and all of that, so I get that. But where we are now, I feel as if maybe we need to turn a corner and let some of the focus be on our instruction and how we're going to get our students back to where they need to be. There is a small section in here on that, but I still, when I read so much that makes me think we've just come out of these past 2 years. I want to move forward, and this is still the use of grant funds, and I know we're using it for instruction. Don't know that this document is reflective of that.
So we are actually given a template from the federal government, the Virginia Department of Education, where we have to follow not just what we have, what we are currently doing, but we have to show the longitudinal information. So there are certain things that have to stay in the plan so it can show a trajectory of where we were pre-COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID based on the funding mechanism. So there are certain things that we cannot remove. And then I do agree, yes ma'am, that as we move forward into the upcoming school year and we bring this plan back to you, that it would identify more instructional components of it based on what we are doing with our funding. But right now, the way that we have to develop the plan, it's very specific to the templates that the state gives us.
Well, like I know in Section 3, Continuity of Services, Academic Services, we have like just 2 paragraphs, and then we talk about communication, daily schedules.
Yes, ma'am. Those are
transportation, technology, and all of those are worthy things. We do have a little bit more down below for student learning with the PBLs, but we've got, and the PBLs are good, but we've got to talk about getting our students back to reading. I mean, we heard that today with public comment. And we're hearing that across the board, that our kids, if they're a year behind, or however far they are behind, what would you say?
At least 2 years behind.
At least 2 years behind.
Yes, ma'am. So I think I understand what you're talking about. Right now, I've been working with my staff. We'll talk about literacy. Ms. Wheeler and Ms. Matheny and I met today specifically about the reading of science and what that looks like and how we're doing that at the elementary school. We piloted it this year, utilizing some CARES funds at Central Elementary. We have seen enormous growth in some of our most struggling students, and that is things that we're taking over into the plan where we're updating it instructionally. And we'll do that for reading, we'll do that for math, we'll do it for our special education, our economically disadvantaged, hitting all those subgroups. But the way that the state has laid out how we're supposed to develop these plans, I can't really do that until it ties to the actual grant that we've written. So we've put these broad pieces of money, 20% of our CARES 3, I believe it is, that we have to spend on instruction. And so we have to take it in big, huge clumps. So we got to give a broad, and then as we move into each school year, we got to tell specifically what we're doing. So this past year,
let me
go ahead.
I think the problem with it is that we're having to present it now, but we don't have all of our data on where specifically all of our students are to make a more, I guess, what you're looking for is a more specific plan.
Well, I know there's a specific plan of how we're going to address academic issues. I think this is how we're spending CARES funds for addressing some of those things. And if I were just to be a person in the public and pick this up, I would say that we were focusing on all of those things from COVID days. And, they're not really focusing a whole lot on instruction. I know we are, don't get me wrong, but this document does not portray that to me. And I wish that it did, because I know the great things that we're doing. So when does this get updated again?
At the beginning of this school year. So when we review our data, we will adjust the plan, purchase what needs to be purchased, or implement what needs to be implemented, and then you receive that plan as an updated plan of what we're actually currently doing in December. If you want that earlier, we can bring that back to you earlier.
Okay, and that's the data that Dr. Arnold's talking about. So that is your plan to get the data, then update
Right.
this.
The plan basically tells you what we just did for the last 6 months. And then we'll,
That's what this tells us.
yes, ma'am.
I'm with you now.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Chairwoman?
Yes.
I found the section. It's sensory classrooms. And it says sensory rooms will be limited to students who require this accommodation as part of their IEP. Sensory equipment that cannot be wiped clean will be removed from the classroom. All equipment will be sanitized in between uses. Prior, what was crossed out was, should a student require an item that cannot be wiped clean, such as a swing, then that item will be limited to that student's use. So it just appears to me in the language here that something like a swing is no longer going to be used, which I highly doubt. Right.
That's not the right
That's
way to
not,
interpret
yeah,
it.
yeah, that's what I figured. So I'm
It's
just,
that's not going to be an issue anymore. The swing is gonna still be there.
good, okay, so when it says sensory equipment that cannot be wiped clean will be removed from the classroom?
You're behind me.
I'll say that's probably something we need to just review and just update.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Thompson, the last thing I have is just, it's date reminders. I know Ms. Cecil sent you on May the 2nd, list of all the schools and what they're doing in May and June. We certainly invite you to come to those things because our students are doing some amazing things and we're recognizing them for those things. There may be some adjustments to elementary schools in June just because they add things on later as they go. They're still trying to get through testing right now, and so that's gonna take a bit. But as it's updated, we'll get that out to you. And then, are we good with graduation in terms of everything's been given to you? Very good. Thank you. So that is all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, and as far as graduation goes, you're going to give us information about where to be and what time and all that, right?
And
Okay.
we'll, in the past, we've taken vans to certain locations and then driven people to where they need to be. That way they don't have to drive in and try to get to where.
Yeah, thank you, that's always very helpful. Okay, we're down to items from individual board members. I'm going to start in the middle first, so we're going to go Mr. Greiser and down, and then we'll come back to Ms. Lagan.
Gov School did not meet last week. We won't have another meeting until like August, I think. Is it? So they did have their senior recognition on May 1st, I believe. And so that's as far as committee reports. As
Mr.
far as,
Greiser, can I add, though?
Sure.
Because one thing that I believe they sent out was our students, one of our students received the Ann Wells
Yes,
Scholarship,
yes.
which is their big
big
one. And actually, 2 years ago we had the winner, and then this year we've had the winner. So that's very, very good.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Mr. Greiser.
No, that's fine.
Sorry, just on that topic, actually 2 students from Amherst County won that scholarship.
Were you one of them?
I was one of them.
All right.
That's the one I was talking
That's
about.
right.
I don't know the other one.
Thank you. Ella Lewis also
Okay.
received the Ann C. Wells Scholarship, which, in case you aren't aware, is
$15,000 a year, which is renewable for up to 4 years.
So good things from Amherst kids.
Yes.
As far as matters before, thank everybody for the information they presented tonight. I like when we can do also the recognitions at the beginning. That's always nice. Big fan of our welding program here. I was right before COVID, and I went to one of the CTE open houses and got to take a good tour of the welding shop and talk with Mr. Johnson. He is a very dedicated man, and those are the people that make CTE happen, because it's hard to replace when they go, because pulling anyone from a trade like that is always tough, especially to come into his classroom with high school kids. So we're fortunate to have people like that. Our student reps, I'm sorry Ms. Cabell couldn't be here, but Ms. Garrison, you've impressed me since I went to the robotics thing at Montellison one Saturday before you got on this board, and I've appreciated you. I admire you for the things that you do as a high school student going and choosing to mentor to middle school students. Man, awesome stuff, and I wish you well. Huntsville's a beautiful area. I like Huntsville. I got a friend in Decatur, and I've spent some time down there, and it's a nice place to be. So good luck when you get to school down there, and send us a postcard from the moon. Yeah, as far as that, just looking forward to these conclusion activities, graduation, the retirements, and things like that coming up. But I'll give the floor back, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Greiser. Mrs. Berg?
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you to Gloria Walker's family for coming tonight, and they'll be in our thoughts and prayers. And also congratulations to our archery and our welding. I know they're both, second to none. Those are great. And also a thank you to the coaches and also the teachers that help the students get to where they are. And to our student reps, thank you guys for being with us this year. And Peter, I think this is like the most I've heard you talk the entire year. It's like you wait till your last meeting to come out of your shell, but good luck to you. And you don't even need good luck. You got this. You could just tell, you know what you want, you know how to go and get it. And good luck, even though you don't need it. And also congratulations to our teachers that were nominated, and also to our Teacher of the Year, Ms. McBride. And also congratulations to our Support Staff of the Year, Mrs. McNeary. And also thank you to our veteran teachers and staff. And to public comments, thank you to Jeff Porter. And the Constitution Day, great idea. I was thinking about that the other day.
We already do that.
We do in every...
Through the Daughters of the American Revolution, they work with us, and we do something at every school.
On which day?
Constitution Day.
Oh, well, thank you. And also, thank you to Karen Duff for coming and speaking with us tonight. Hopefully, good things happen with her son, and we could start working on implementing some more reading programs and getting our kids caught up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Berg. Ms. Justice?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm so blessed to be a part of the ACPS community. Mr. Porter, thank you for engaging with us on a regular basis and sharing your ideas and concerns. I hope that the discussion here tonight may have encouraged you that you're being heard and considered. Mrs. Duff, thank you for speaking up. Please continue to interact with your board, and I appreciate you contacting Superintendent Arnold. I'm so glad to know we already do Constitution Day. That's fantastic, and I'm sure we can make it even more robust. I have the highlights for the last month for me have been being in our schools. I got to go on a trout day with Dr. Wells and kids. What a fantastic program. It's just amazing talking with Dr. McGinnis and Mr. Cargill. I got to go in during the lunches and interact with our cafeteria workers and our teachers, and our principals, and I was so blessed and so welcomed by Central Elementary School and by Amherst. There we go. Amherst. And I'm just so impressed with the caliber of our teachers, our staff, our students, all the way down to our custodians and of course, our bus drivers. They keep us working. And so I just wanted to say, I think in listening to everything going on tonight, you, Mr. Garrison, and the teachers that have been here for 25 years in Amherst County, truly, Amherst is just phenomenal in a world that is becoming more and more distant and disconnected, even from family. To have a community that is generationally giving back to a rural community is phenomenal, and it speaks to the character of this area. And I've really appreciated the discussion tonight, even on topics that were not easy, but that's how we work together. So congratulations and happy graduation as it comes up.
Thank you, Ms. Justice. Mr. Rossi?
Can you hear me now? Well, tonight has been interesting. I started off here on the school board just recently, along with Dawn, and I have to say it's been quite an adventure. Learning about school policy and procedure and watching the school go through COVID, wow, it's been amazing. And the dedication that the teachers have and the students' resilience to just get through it and push and fight hard, and now they get the fruits of all that labor. And it's nice to see the students that have put forth all the effort in getting the rewards. I wish you all the luck, Peter. I think you're going to do great, and I know a lot of seniors are going to do great. I don't think we should leave any of them out because it was a struggle for them to get here. Nobody had it easy. Everybody had to work hard, and the teachers and obviously the staff had to work incredibly hard to make things happen. It wasn't anything that one person did. Everybody was working hard. They had to work beyond. And I don't want to leave anybody out because it wasn't one person, it was everybody working together, and seeing the community come together, and the senior prom, isn't that amazing? The community comes together to make that happen, and that just goes to show what Amherst is about. The people that are here and coming up to the podium and putting forth their concerns, it's just great, and it's a great time to be in Amherst, and I think we're going to do great things and continue to do great things. And I wish all of you the best of luck in your future endeavors, and maybe send us some rocks from the moon. That wouldn't be too bad. But that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rossi. Mrs. Ligon?
Okay, I'll be kind of short. We've heard from Mr. Neighbors on Laurel, and it was very thorough, and things are great beginnings over there. The only thing I'll add is that the graduation is on May the 24th at Laurel, and we do have one graduate from Amherst County, and I think one or two from Campbell County, something like that, but from Amherst. So we're excited about everything that Dr. Lewis is doing as far as Laurel is concerned. We're dedicated to that school and to the process that they're going through. Other than that, I don't have a report. I think I made my report on VSBA, and I will be considering if I'm going to continue that role. But at this time, I'm just keeping myself aware of all the alerts. Ms. Justice, to your point, when you do hear of alert, or when you do receive some information and the policy is not agreeable to you, that's when you would write your comments or contact your representative, Senator Newman, or whoever put the bill out. That's why they send it to you all. So if you don't like it right then, you can go ahead and say something, or you can tell me if I'm the person. So your point is well taken. And so I'm not angry, I'm just saying that we do the best we can, and we're not all going to agree on policies, depending on what side of the road you own, if you like the gravel, if you don't. So I'm not mad about it, I'm just saying that we need to consider what we're looking at before we come out of things. I want to congratulate everyone. I can't call all these names. Things have been wonderful tonight. This is the season of rejoicing and greetings and saying goodbye, Peter. And Ms. Cabell is at the graduation at CVCC. That's where she is, so we don't want to think she just didn't come. where I'm supposed to be, but anyway, we made an adjustment on that. But Peter, you just have the greatest time, and I'm so excited for that enthusiasm that you've had. You make me feel good about what's going on in school. And I want to say that Mr. Terry was with me at the Golden Age. He just slipped out before y'all called our names, so don't leave that out. But if I take anything away from the Golden Age, is that 75 young people received Golden A's. That's a third of the class. That's a third of the graduation class. So even though we hear all these conversations at public comment and other places about what is not being done, let us try to consider what is being done. And some good things are going on. We need to stop stereotyping. When I heard tonight of a particular grade that was this grade, we don't want to do that. We don't want to bring any grade into the conversation. I have grandchildren in the 8th grade. Hello. So let's not do that. I'm not putting down the public comment. I'm just saying I'm not going to stereotype any school. I'm not going to stereotype any grade. We will try to do things the best we can and not make anybody feel bad. Because if somebody was stereotyping me, I was like, oh, you're talking about me? I mean, that would make me feel really bad. So in my closing comment, going forward with graduations, recognitions, luncheons and dinners, we need to consider that things are not as bad as we would like for them to be. You know, I'm trying to see some light myself. We made it through COVID, almost. I said almost because there are a lot of cases. I know some personal people going through it right now. I know some people in the hospital. So we still need to wipe our surfaces off, wipe our microphones off, and wear gloves when needed. We still need to be careful. That's just my comment. We still need to be careful. I didn't say we had to put the mask back on, make everybody upset, but I would be careful out there. Now, another thing that when young kids go home to their grandparents, and that's one of the things that we consider, that the older generation, as well as myself, the immune system is not like it used to be. So when the kids are at school, we want to keep them as germ-free as we can, and we need to continue to remain to do that. But I'm just excited about the activities, the Golden Age, the tassels, and I did go down to Amelon. My schedule didn't allow too much, but I did get to Amelon to give out some lunches. What a wonderful time I had down there, just talking to the teachers. No one said anything to me that they hated their job. I didn't ask them, though. You see, I didn't approach that. I said, I hope you had a good year, and I hope you'll have a good summer, and I hope you like this chicken salad. And I didn't invite any other conversation. I think we all could learn from that. I'm trying to do better myself. Life is too stressful, and when we bring up stressful things, the mental health of everybody goes down. So let's not add teachers. I hope you hear me. There will be some kind of budget made and you'll be fine, okay? Just keep on buying expensive gas and expensive eggs, and we're going to make sure you make it next year. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Terry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the STEM Academy, they did their internship presentations. I was able to go over and see those. Those are always a lot of fun to see what the kids have actually been able to do hands-on with. We had 4 students from Amherst County participating, and those are, I didn't get to do any of those things when I was in high school, so there was a lot of fun. I did participate in the Golden A's, and it was, when you see that many students come across with such exceptional GPAs, more power to them. Peter, you guys crushed it this year. And I did get to help with the Elon Teacher Appreciation Week. So that's always a fun thing to do and show the teachers how much we do appreciate what they do for our students and our kids. So, and then as far as tonight, I think everybody loves seeing all the recognition stuff that goes on. The welding group, just hearing, just like Dr. Arnold said, even when he was representing Campbell County, Amherst was winning those things. So that's great to see that that's a legacy kind of thing for us. And the people at the National Archery Tournament are going to get tired of hearing Amherst County's name. Mm-hmm. This is not their first year. It won't be their last. So it's great to see the kids succeed and that kind of stuff. Our student reps, sorry Sienna couldn't be here tonight, but Peter, you guys kept us very informed this year. It was great seeing, the 2 of you be a part of it, so that burden wasn't always on one, and you guys split the bill pretty well. So good luck to you in your future endeavors. You'll do well. Thanks for our speakers coming tonight. I always like to hear what is out there in the public and what people like to say. And, you know, we talk about the longevity of our teachers. You know, a lot of us in this room are lifelong Amherst County people. And it's great to see those teachers when they do come here. If they're not from here, when they come here, they stay. Mr. Gallagher, hopefully you can retain some of those students who are going out and getting those education degrees, and maybe they'll be our next 25-year recipients here for long. But one of those lifelong Amherst County people is Dr. Wells, and I'd like to say congratulations to Dr. Wells. We look forward to many years of service. So congratulations, sir. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. Well, it seems like everybody has said it all, so I just want to say, just really briefly, I have participated in some of the Constitution Day events that we have held over the years, and they have been really good. So I'm looking forward to the one for this year that's coming up, and just make sure you let us know about it so we can participate. Also want to thank Peter and Sienna for all that they've done, and wish you the best of not luck, but just the best for you, because I know that there's a lot. So we will miss you. Thank you for all you've done to contribute to help our students as well as to help us. Also want to thank all of the teachers, the staff, you know, the bus drivers, the nurses, the custodians. This has been, you know, it's been a year. I remember we went through COVID and everybody said it was a difficult year. And then I've heard this year that it was even more difficult than the COVID year. So, you know, Dr. Arnold, you have helped steer us through 4 years, and they have been some pretty tough years. So hopefully we'll be able to turn the corner with pushing some of this COVID behind us. And so I want to say thank you for that leadership during those tough years, and that we will be able to look forward to starting. I'm trying to already get excited about next year, and want to, like Mr. Terry said, just say congratulations to Dr. Wells, and we look forward to working with you. And just want to say thank you for every single thing that you've done to help us to have a successful year for our students. And I know that we'll do that again. And to Ms. Liggins' point, yes, teachers, staff, we will be fine. The state and the federal government will take care of us. But the point tonight was to make sure that we contact them and that we get a decision sooner rather than later, because it is hard on our staff when it comes in at the last minute. So want to say congratulations to Mrs. McBride and Mrs. McNerney. You represent us well. And to all of the teachers that were recognized in their building levels. And I even am excited about the kindergarten and early childhood numbers that we have. If there's any parents out there that haven't taken advantage of that, make sure you contact the school system. So just want to say thank you, and looking forward to a wonderful graduation ahead. Okay, I believe that we have added to a closed session, so I need...
I got it.
Thank you.
Yep. Pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia, I recommend the board convene a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing administrative and organizational structure issues.
All right, I need a motion that we go into closed session.
Motion, we go into closed session.
All right, a second?
Second.
A second from Mr. Arasi. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're in closed session.
Where does the school board rebel? No one seconds the motion to go into closed